We'll go ahead and open up our work session for this week. Please silence and shut off your phones and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Mr. Albertson, would you lead us, please?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Additions or deletions?
Yes, I have one addition. The sheriff would like to speak about search and rescue and Christmas value.
Okay. Perfect. All right, first item on the list, appreciation certificates.
So I have a couple of gals from outside of the county that I wanted to bring in here and recognize because they are two of the sweetest ladies running this program. I've worked with a bunch of them since I've been here in the past 5 years, and no one has been a better steward of the hall and made their group more accountable. They really have a lot of tough love for the community, and I think they're a great asset. So I was hoping that you guys could help me congratulate them for a job well done.
Absolutely.
Who do we have?
Oh, how about that, huh? We have Barb Hartnell and Teresa Bailey, and they run the Serenity Seekers.
Thank you guys for joining us today.
Certainly. Thank you for having us.
And we have some stuff for them, and I don't know if you guys have something you'd like to say.
I just want to thank you ladies for, turning your lives around to start with and helping other people turn their lives around, because we know that if you head down the wrong road, it's just one decision away from making a bad choice. And I just want to thank you guys for all your work you've done for all these years and supporting these people. And so we really appreciate it.
Thank you. It's our pleasure.
So Barb, you've been in the group for 15 years?
Oh, yeah. I've been in recovery going on 24 years. I just stepped in probably within the last 4 or 5 years ago, on the NAs here and at the Memorial Hall. So,
Do you want to tell people what you guys do and what your objectivity is?
Giving back to the community. We, part of my recovery is giving back to the community. Anytime there's something that the community does, like the Bow Club, I've done volunteer work for the Bow Club. I've done campaign work. I've done meetings here. I've done work with kids. I'm really concentrating on kids now. And people seeking recovery from alcohol and drugs. Next, the 11th is our next thing. We got Christmas for the kids. We're going to go volunteer for that and help them out there. I didn't get to do it last year, but the years before I've gotten to kind of jump in and help, which is a blast. So that's basically what we do. We just, back in our disease, we always took from the community, and we always, and we did. I took a lot from this community when I was in my addictions. And my thing is now to give back to this community, and with that being said, I have a lot of love and a lot of support through this community, a lot of love. I am very blessed today, and I owe it all to God in this community. Amen. So. Yeah. My right-hand woman.
Tracy,
I come up with an idea and I throw it at her. Let's do this. Okay.
I'm sorry, what's that?
do you want to talk about?
Yeah, we, like Barb said, giving back to the community. I got in trouble here in Lakeview. If it wasn't for being in trouble here in Lakeview. And that I was running and gunning for 30 years. am an addict, and that's all there is to it. I didn't wake up one day and say, oh, sorry about that. I'm gonna be an addict, but
You gotta buy lunch now.
I'm sorry. I totally forgot about it. Okay, and I gave them a hard enough time that they told me that, Teresa, you don't shape up, you're gonna go to prison. And I'm like, I'm 54 years old at that time, and no. And you folks started the drug treatment program here, and I was the first one in and the first one out to graduate it without a hiccup. I didn't go to jail. I didn't do anything. And that's been 7 years ago. This February 15th, I'll have 7 years in clean and sober. We had our first trunk or treat or Halloween giveaway down at the Memorial Hall. We gave away 75 bags of candy. Barb kept going, where are these kids coming from?
14 was good.
We didn't know Lakeview had so many kids, but we had the greatest time. We've had speaker meetings, we've had people come over from Klamath, Medford, Grants Pass, for speaker meetings. We just had a great big potluck downstairs. We had our first holiday fair that was awesome. We're gonna have another one on the 18th of this month, or December. And we're just trying to give back, you know. I mean, for so many years we took and took and took. And it's been awesome. And Lakeview has really, really been there to back us up, so.
Oh, we just made a connection with Reno recovery people in Reno, Nevada, so that should be interesting to see what that road leads to.
So yeah, we're just reaching out and trying to get it done, and we're doing okay.
Appreciate all you guys do for the community.
Thanks. We
Fantastic.
really enjoy it. You don't have idle hands, so you gotta keep busy,
Right.
you know, so yeah, we're having that.
Good.
Thanks, guys.
Jason?
As much credit as I would like to take for Teresa's success, I can't take any of that.
Oh, yeah.
Between Teresa and Zach was her supervising officer, the true grit and hard work came between those two. It wasn't easy at first, as Teresa had mentioned. It took a lot of hard work on her part. It was a lot of grueling work, but Teresa had one goal in mind, and that was to be where she is today. I would love to accept all the honors for that, but I had absolutely nothing to do with it. Teresa's hard work and dedication to her chosen goal and her chosen path, and Zach's hard work on keeping those wheels in motion. It was a total team effort, but a lot of the kudos goes to Teresa herself and also Zach for the work they did together collectively. And to have Teresa sitting here today, 7 years later, it's proof that our program does work. Teresa's a big supporter of our program, and a lot of our participants reach out to Teresa for guidance. Barb and I have worked together collectively over the 9 years I've been here in different fashions, but Barb's work in the sobriety community as well is very huge. So a lot of kudos to those two for keeping our sobriety community up and going. The things they do for the community and the things they do for those folks that are struggling, hats off to them.
Appreciate that.
Hats off to them.
Thank you.
It speaks volumes for the importance of our drug court program. That's why we gotta fight to keep it, so we have more success stories.
Yeah, because this county, it really needs it.
It's desperate need of it.
Well, I'm gonna present you guys with each
No, you get a certificate, you get a photo.
come on up here, ladies. You guys want to come down? So,
Would you like us?
you can just come over on this side.
Oh, Lord have mercy.
This is for your exemplary recovery support and volunteer work. So,
Okay. Well, good.
Okay, there we go.
There we go. Ready?
Awesome job, proud of
Blessings. No wonder we voted you guys in.
you. We voted you guys in too.
Okay.
Barb, don't forget your.
Okay. Oh, Stevie, why?
Don't forget your.
Oh, yeah,
little
yeah.
plans.
You want me to grab yours?
Yeah, where am I gonna? Give him my head? Thanks, bud. Thanks again, guys, very much.
We also have an appreciation of our Sergeant Billbear, who I don't see here today, a 10-year anniversary.
You wanna accept it for it, your
Sure.
I sure will. He was too shy to come.
Oh, okay. All right.
Thank you so much.
thank you.
Is there a certificate?
No, it's just a pin, right?
It's just a pin, yeah.
Okay, perfect. I don't wanna be greedy.
That's fine.
No poinsettia either.
We'll track the sergeant down later. We'll give a personal thank you to him.
Thank you.
10 years is a big commitment. So. Also, we want to say an appreciation to Judy Clark, who is also not here today.
She said she'll be here.
Oh, perfect. All right, then we'll hold off on that. Last but not least, I guess we'll just run back here to another person that we really appreciate, Kenny Weinbrenner. I do see you are here today. Kenny's been absolutely awesome to work with, taking over the work program. So, Jake, if you have a few words you'd like to share, I'm sure you do.
Yeah, Kenny didn't know this was happening. I asked him to prepare some notes for the work he does for the Forest Service in the county and the school district. So he spent a lot of time making some notes, and he didn't know he was getting recognized today. So Kenny, my apologies for the extra work he did. But
I'll have to read this?
So Kenny came to us about 2.5 years ago as our work crew foreman. Kenny's history, he hails from Montana. Did a lot of cowboying, involved with rodeo growing up. Came out to Lakeview, been cowboying his whole life, working for different ranches, doing some day work. Decided it was time to settle down and go to work.
Get
Not that
weekends
he-
off.
So he hired, or he applied, and we hired him up, and Kenny's done great work for us. He does a lot of work for the Forest Service. He runs our Forest Service contract, building fences, repairing some trails and some different handrails and docks and different things. He does a lot of work for the county, the fairgrounds, the county parks. He does a lot of work at the schools here. Up north, he does a lot of work for the Parks and Rec Department up in Christmas Valley, does a lot of work for the rodeo
rodeo
grounds. He's all over the place, and he's a big player in our firewood program, delivering all our firewood throughout the winter months to the folks that meet the criteria to get the firewood. I can't say enough about Kenny and his work ethic. He's here every day, greets everybody with a smile. He's passionate about what he does. And just the work he does for the county, and it's a lot of work that goes unrecognized and unseen and unnoticed until we're down at the fairgrounds and we can enjoy the beauty of the fairgrounds. Not that Kenny's alone, he has Jeremy and Greg and Nick as well that help beautify that place down there. So Kenny today, he's still active in our Pop Warner program. He's been there for 6 years coaching. He's a Roundup volunteer. He works his butt off during the Lake County Roundup. And also he's the rodeo grounds director of Christmas Valley. So he's up there as well, beautifying that place and making sure their play days and everything go without a hitch. He still considers himself a fair weather cowboy, but I haven't heard of him out doing any cowboying, which is nice. So he can relax and enjoy his family and still work here full time. So appreciate the work Kenny does day in and day out, not only for our department, but for the good of the county and everything involved. So, Dave, do you have anything?
Yeah. I got a story about Kenny. I'll get into it here in a minute. First of all, Kenny, thank you. When I talk, I just don't talk right. But anyway, this summer during the fair, hands down to this guy, because he got us through the fair. If it wasn't for him and his crew, we wouldn't have made it. You know, so he asked Kenny to do something. He's always there. He would just whatever we needed done. If he didn't already have it done, he was going to get it done. So thank you for that, for helping us through the fair, especially. And then also my story is Barry Schollenberger just became a commissioner here. And I come back to my office and Barry looks at me, he comes to my office and goes, "Did you see what happened to Kenny Weinberger out there?" "No, why?" "Well, you took a pretty hard fall." So me, knowing how to work the cameras, I went back to the cameras and watched this little episode of him. It was the end of the day, it was Thursday, he's heading for a big weekend. And he comes walking out of the thing, or out of the office out there, and he's looking at his phone, and he's just getting ready to go home. Well, pretty soon he started doing the whole Lord Jesus help me. He was just, and it took him, you could just see him. It took him from here to that door out there to get his feet. Well, he never got his feet, and pretty soon he did a face plant. I mean, he gets up, his glasses are all broke. So, we were worried about him through the weekend. Well, he comes into work on Monday, and he sits down he asked me if I had any work for him to do that day. Well, he kind of was hiding, so he looks up and his face is just a scab. And his elbows. So anyway, my moral of the story is Kenny kind of learn how to walk when you're getting a weekend off. So anyway, thank you for what you do for me and my crew, and then what you do through the community as well. So thank you.
Thank you.
We thought about playing the video, but we didn't want to.
Yeah. It's on YouTube. I wish you guys would have told me this. I would have spent an hour writing all this. How you got it done. You won't have to worry about it later when you ask for it. Anyway, the commissioners and all of us want to thank you and present you with a certificate and a gift card for ACE. So
Thank you.
So how do you want to?
Dave, yeah, can you just go? Okay, so you're all coming down here?
You're short, we can all stand on it.
Okay, you guys ready? One more.
Kenny, you have a story of sobriety too, right?
Yeah,
Want to talk about it?
well, I could.
Keith, before you do that, Barbara and I thank you and your crew also for keeping the Memorial Hall as clean as you do for us. Know that we appreciate that so much, you don't even know.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
We
Thank you.
appreciate you.
You want me to stand up here and tell my story up there? I've been sober 11 years, 4 months, and a few days. I got in trouble here. We're August 14th, 2010. And we're branding cabs on the desert. February, March cabs. Open them in August. So, and here, typical desert branding. Bear. And I came to town. As I'm coming to town, I hit a cow coming off the ski hill. I was going slow and looking at the cows on the ski hill. All of a sudden there's a cow. I hit her. Went down to where you go into the ski hill, turned around, came back and looked at her. She went across the road and went and eat the grass. You know whose cow it was? My boss's. And I pull into town and I illegally parked my pickup with one headlight hanging down over here. And that was my last drink. You never forget that. You never ever forget that. I go to AA, I do come to the NA meetings, since Barb and Teresa taking over, it's become more disciplined. They stick to the steps, they stick to the traditions. It's good. I run meetings, AA, I've been running a Monday meeting 7, 8 years. Until this year, I kind of let go of it. Because every year during football, I wouldn't be able to run a meeting because I was coaching. I don't know, I got sober myself, but a lot of people think, oh, you gotta get sober for your kids, you gotta get sober for your family, you gotta get sober to keep a job. I got sober for me. And by me getting sober, I'm taking care of all the responsibilities that I have. So that's enough of my story.
Well, Judy Clark, good morning.
Good morning.
How are you today?
Well, hopefully I know answers to questions. It's one of those days. How can I help you?
Well, we just really want to say how much we appreciate you.
Oh, thank you.
And we've also put together a certificate of appreciation. And we've got you a card. It's not very big though. It's
Pocket size.
yeah, pocket size. So anyway, Commissioner Albertson, would you like to do the honors of this? Yeah.
So, I want to start ball.
Better you than me.
You have the biggest heart, and the unfortunate part about having a big heart is it gets hurt a lot. And we know that we've been through a battle, and we just love you and appreciate you. And, you know, I don't always agree with you, but I love you.
Of course. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. We're all good. I don't agree with you. So we're good. Thank you guys. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, all you do.
Sorry.
No, that's fine.
Oh, we're doing a photo?
Yep, we're doing it.
All right.
Ready? One more. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. If I could just say one more thing real quick.
Absolutely.
Ginger has been my sponsor since I got into the program. And if it wasn't for her and Zach, like Jake said, I wouldn't be here today. I also had to go through a triple bypass because of my use. And I just love you to death, and you know it.
Oh, thanks. Thank you.
Yeah, if it wasn't for that lady there, I don't know. I'd probably be dead or in prison, one of the two. That's what they tell you you're gonna end up. So there you have it. So,
Well, you did a good job.
Thank
Love
you.
you too.
thank
Thanks.
you. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Thanks, guys.
All right. So,
Just think where this community would be if all of you guys went and got sober. Seriously. I mean, look what you guys have all done for our community. And if you went and got sober,
It would be pretty.
so
I think,
thank you guys. Thank the good Lord for getting you there.
That's it.
I'd be in prison.
Yeah.
Where I was headed, I would be in prison. So by the grace of God, there go I.
I think the good way of saying it would be, you've made Lake County a better place.
Thank
So,
you.
thank you.
We're trying.
Yeah.
Trying our hardest.
That's all we can all do.
That's it.
Well, I don't wanna cry anymore, so.
Yeah. Together, man. Yeah.
Thanks, E.
Thanks. We'll run down. We've got a timed item
And then once you go, you're like, oh.
here at 9:30 for Ginger. Do you want to just go ahead and jump on that real quick? We got a few minutes, but it'd be great if we could just jump in.
No, we could go ahead because we probably are gonna need a little extra time.
That's fine. Yeah.
And since Alyssa, I see Alyssa is already on here, I think we're still possibly waiting for our other consultant and,
Okay, I think Nick is on here as well.
oh, is Nick on too?
Yes.
Okay, so,
Thank you, guys. I gotta
Thank
go
you.
back and make coffee.
Sounds good. All right. See you, Barb.
Thank you. See you
good
later.
morning, commissioners.
Good morning.
Yeah, thank you, guys.
Thank
you.
I suppose I should say who I am. I'm Ginger Casto and I'm the executive director of the Lakeview Community Partnership. And I really appreciate your time this morning. I've made sure, I think you've all seen Alyssa's report, and I'll introduce her and Nick. And another piece that goes along with the report that is called the Action Roadmap. And also Tiberius Solutions, Nick Papanuk's report for the work that he has done for us. And I'll just very briefly talk about how we got to where we are today. 2 years ago, in October of 19, we went through the community. We facilitated a process in the community with the help of Sherry Stewart, who's the executive director of the Oregon Main Street program. A visioning process to see, where do we want to go in downtown Lakeview? What do we want to do? And we came out with some about 7 or 8 action steps, and one of them was to explore further what things came out of it and do some planning. And then in February of 2020, COVID hit and we really got stalled to a certain degree. We also needed funding to be able to work with people like Alyssa and Nick to help us really develop a plan, or at least identify further, what direction we needed to go. So in May of this past year, we were able to fund through SCOED, through South Central Oregon Economic Development District, and the Oregon Community Foundation, the Lake County Community Foundation, Pacific Power, and the town of Lakeview. We were able to actually fund the planning portion of the project. Now, our work is not done, even though we have this beautiful, beautiful information. This is just the beginning, so I will say that right up front, that planning is the first part of getting to where you want to go. And now we are definitely on a path with the roadmap, and this work is not going to go on the shelf and just sit there. It's going to be a work in progress over time, and we're really committed to going through with some action and some projects. And we've had wonderful support through Alyssa Pishka from Bridge Economic Development in Portland, and Nick Papanuk. Sorry, Nick, I can always stumble there. And from Tiberius Solutions. And I'm not going to take up any more time because their work has been really valuable and very informative, and I want you to be able to understand. Some of it has been technical, and we really want you to understand and hear what they have to say, and then be able to ask them questions. So I don't know which one of you. Alyssa, are you going first?
Good morning. Yes, I can go ahead and start. And I think I just need the ability to share. If I could be given that, that would be great. Okay. While we're doing that, good morning, commissioners. Good morning, those of you in the audience, again, I'm Alyssa Pishka with Bridge Economic Development, and it's a great opportunity to be here. Let me go, sorry, don't want to get too distracted here. Okay.
Sure. Perfect.
Can you all see that?
Yep.
That come up? Yep. Let me. Okay. So what we'd like to do, Ginger gave a great overview of what we've been working on with the Lakeview, LCP, Lakeview Community Partnership, really leading this effort and support of SCOED. So what we want to walk through today is what did we do? Why did we do this? And then what we're going to really shift over to is Nick's going to talk about a concept called tax increment financing as a way to implement this. Because I personally, for my practice, am very passionate about implementation. I'm always starting a project, making sure there's going to be someone like Ginger at the helm to make sure this moves forward. And we really want to talk about that as part of the presentation for you as well. So what we'll cover is why did we do this strategy? What's the strategy overview? What was the focus? What were we looking at? What are we recommending the focus become? What makes a vibrant downtown? What are the elements that you need to focus on? And then those strategy elements, and then as I mentioned, implementation. So to start it off with strategy overview, the downtown of a community is critical, especially going forward for economic development. As you've all probably seen, after COVID, the remote work, amazing technology like we're using today with Zoom, people able to work remotely, there's a new opportunity for communities, more rural communities, to attract new workers through broadband technology, remote workers. The other critical element of your downtown is making you distinct. So as people have more and more options to choose where they want to go, a downtown is a critical element in conveying what are the values of a community. What's important to Lake County and Lakeview? And a quick impression someone's going to have of your downtown is what are you willing to invest in yourself? How do you all see yourselves? And that's reflected physically through the downtown. So those are some of the reasons why we really stress the importance of investing in your downtown. Above all, it's critical for your economic development and your health of your community. So then why would you develop a strategy? Why do you need a strategy? Why don't you just start doing things? First of all, there's many players involved. Not one, or it's impossible for one organization to help grow a downtown. So one, you want to document what's everyone going to do? What's the playbook? Where are we going? What's the direction and why? So Ginger held up that larger document. That's the why. So if someone questions, why are you doing this? Why are you investing in downtown? Why did this crazy consultant recommend we do these things? That's your why. The roadmap is the specific action. So that's item 2. You want to know, what do we need to do and who's going to do it? In my experience in project management and managing economic development in cities, if you don't assign someone a responsible action, it's likely not going to happen. So we'll talk about that. And then finally, to secure funding. Grant funders want to see a plan. What is the why? Why should they be giving you these grant dollars? What are you going to do with it? How does it all come together to know that this is a good investment in the grant dollars? So those are the 3 concrete reasons of why it's important to have a strategy to move forward in the growth of your downtown. So we did the strategy. What are we recommending? What's the project focus? So first of all, we wanted to define downtown. So I want to reiterate, this is still a draft, so we're looking for input. So if people are questioning it, we're looking for input. This is part of the outreach right now and the conversations we're having. But generally what we oh, go ahead. Was there a comment? Okay. Generally what we define downtown is this boundary you can see before you, the blue areas and the gold areas, is really thinking about these are the businesses that need to come together to collaborate, work on events together, share resources, market together. That's why we're calling it a collaboration district. The gold area is what we're calling the focus area, the project focus area. So this is a zoom in of that. What that means is, in all my experience in working with cities and helping redevelop cities like Vancouver, Washington, or Beaverton, Oregon, you've got to focus your energies into a specific area to start seeing results. If you spread it like peanut butter, you're not going to accomplish anything. So we're really recommending that you focus in this gold area, this primary block, this primary area. And what we're calling out here even further is what we're calling out, it's shaded a little bit darker here, is this primary block focus. And why we called that out is because here are your core streets, right? You've already improved Highway 395 and know the results of that. But Center Street is critical, it ties to your trailhead, and this is your core intersection. This is your gateway intersection coming into the community. The other street that needs improvement is East Street. So what we're highlighting here is these priority areas. So if you have money, if you have the ability to invest, we want to give you a tiered direction of where do you go first and then build off that so that it spreads out. But you really got to focus on these core areas. It's also aligned with the county courthouse, this event space, and tying into these other assets. But here also we'll talk about is the Hereford building, which is a critical gateway element. So that's our first recommendation in the strategy is physically where you're going to invest your energies and your resources. So with that, what does it take? What makes a vibrant downtown? So the first is back to that notion of very intentional location of retail. Great downtowns don't just happen. They are very focused. So what that takes is intentional collaboration with your property owners, educating them on what the vision is, where do you want retail, and making sure those storefronts. So back to here, these have to remain vibrant. We're calling out these blocks. These need to be retail so that they all build off each other, and so you're creating a destination space. So what we're calling out here, this is an example in Vancouver, Washington. Not only did they upgrade buildings with the storefront improvement program, they intentionally brought 3 restaurants into these buildings to make a space, a destination within the community. So that's why we're calling it that curating of tenants, kind of like curating art, being very intentional of who you're bringing in. The next element is activity. So this is the Hereford building. You've got these 2 stories above. Is critical retail. But so this is an example in Klamath Falls where with investments and resources, they put apartments up on the 2nd floor. Getting people living downtown is a critical way to help increase activity. Also continuing with the events and then making sure that the businesses are healthy, right? And that they're thriving so that people will continue to come there. And then finally is the physical experience, the physical appearance. So this is, you can see in this slide, F Street, that's been improved through ODOT improvements. And then right off of that is the existing conditions of Center Street, which we've identified as a very critical street for the retail health. So once you can work on the buildings and the improvements, then we recommend really thinking about the physical improvements and appearance. So how do you do that? What are the steps that need to be taken to achieve those goals for a vibrant downtown? So first, is attract customers. Your main priority is taking care of the existing businesses first. They need to be healthy. You need to stabilize the foundation. And so these are some examples, some bullet points of how do you do that? What can be done? And as you can see here, it doesn't take a lot of money. Right? It just takes dedicated resources from a cleanup to a small business technical assistance program. So that's the first step, is taking care of your existing businesses by attracting customers, keeping them healthy. 2, then you can think about filling the storefronts. So think about if you were going to expand a business and go into a business, the first thing you'd be asking, well, how are the existing businesses doing? Right? Is this an area where I want to invest? Do I know other businesses are doing well and we can leverage each other? So once you've stabilized the existing businesses, make sure they're strong, then you can strategically attract tenants. And what I mean by that is you don't just start running off asking businesses if they want to come to Lakeview. In order to really get attention, working with my clients where we've seen success is you have a space, you know where you want them to go, you've built a relationship with the property owners. You have an incentive program in place. What are you going to offer them? And then you can attract them with those specific investments. So they need a place and a reason to come. So until that's established, it's going to be very challenging to attract new businesses. So that's why we mean doing that strategically. And with some of those incentives, it can be a storefront improvement program. It can be helping tenants. If you want a new restaurant, often a grease trap or a hood are expensive investments. So thinking about how you can offset some of those capital costs that are also concrete investments for future businesses coming in. So that's the second area. And the last is, now we get into that physical space, building the community. So what are you going to invest in for the infrastructure? So what we stressed in the strategy is investing in the downtown is critical, but even more critical is making sure that Lakeview has good quality water and good quality internet access. Until those foundational elements are provided, it is going to be very hard from an economic development position to attract remote workers and businesses. So we wanted to stress that. We know the town's working on that. We know the county's working on that, but we just wanted to emphasize that that is really critical to fully realize the potential of downtown. And then what we want to stress is thinking about these buildings almost more as infrastructure. Your historic buildings make you incredibly distinct and unique. And there's many of the stakeholder discussions is that there is a realization of keeping Hereford building is critical and you don't want to lose it like the historic courthouse. So thinking it more as a community asset and how do you keep these buildings by restoring the roofs, brownfields assessments and so forth. And then we talked about other elements such as a park and then finally that streetscape improvement that we touched on. So those are the core elements that we're recommending the community focus on. And then I'll touch quickly on implementation and then shift it over to Nick. But what we wanted to do is think about, so this is just a draft chart, but everybody has a role. So as part of this strategy going forward is everyone knowing what do they do best and how do they align those resources to the strategy. So this is just one example, and this can be obviously tweaked, but thinking about where does everyone contribute? And then building that out into this roadmap that Ginger provided. So this is a draft. So the next step for LCP is shopping this. We call it shopping or just going back to the lead organizations. They've been involved in this process, but are they willing to take on and move these actions forward? Because if there's not a lead organization, as I mentioned, to move it forward, it's likely not going to move forward. So we don't want to set yourself up for frustration. So that's the next step in this is making sure that buy-in is there for the roadmap. And then leveraging some of the programs you already have now with the brownfields assessment. So how do you go into the Hereford building and know how much cleanup will be? What will it take? What level of investments are required? So that's a great tool you can be using strategically for your historic buildings downtown. And then finally, tax increment financing. So this is a resource tool that can be considered by the city. But what we want to emphasize is there are other resources out there, and we put that in the roadmap. So TIF isn't the only tool, but it's a very important one that many communities across the state of Oregon use. So I'm going to stop there and stop screen. But is there any questions on my presentation?
I have a couple. So when you one of the first statements you made was how important broadband was, which I understand, but the people that are going to be working from home, how is this going to increase our downtown if people are working from home?
Yeah, that's a great question. Well, first of all, you're bringing new income. You're bringing more people and income that can go shopping downtown. So if we look at the wages, typically those are higher wages. So first you have more people that can support those businesses downtown. But what you can also look at, some of the spaces is building out, could you do they want office space downtown? Do they want co-working space? So again, increasing that activity, leasing out, filling up some of those vacant storefronts. So the first primarily is bringing more income and more people, more spending power to the community of Lakeview. But the second is they could start occupying space downtown as well.
Okay, so one of the
Can I just say one thing about that really quickly? The other part of the internet broadband issue it's actually for the entire county, it's not just for Lakeview, is redundancy, which we do not have right now. So when we go down, we go down. And the only folks that really have redundancy at this point, and it's not 100%, are those that are their ISP is wireless. If you are depending on fiber, then there's an issue. And until we can solve that issue, we are not going to be able to attract some economic development opportunities that we would if we had redundancy. So that's huge.
So one of the other things that we're running into is that there's plenty of jobs available, but we don't have the housing for those people. And so I don't believe in the word affordable housing, because there's no such thing as affordable housing. Or cheap housing or whatever. And so I think, I'm sure you guys probably covered that too in your draft.
Yeah, and what we would, along those lines of definitions, what we're recommending, let me pull this up again real quickly. Right now, the zoning code is restrictive for where housing can go downtown. So what we would recommend, and so we've got here proposed housing units. So you can see it's a little hard, it might not be translating well, but there's opportunities. You've already have some housing right here on Center Street. So opening up the zoning code to, again, fill some of those storefronts and allow for smaller units to go on these block faces that aren't your critical retail core. And then again, you can put it up above the second story. So there's opportunity. We're recommending put more housing downtown, just as a different option for different people and to bring more people downtown.
So one more question. How are our brick and mortar businesses, how are they going to compete with like online companies like Amazon or different? What is our plan on our brick and mortar to compete?
Yeah, so what we're recommending a lot of those brick and mortars do is back to one of the recommendations through SCOED is to start with a business technical assistance program. So making sure the brick and mortar businesses they also have an online presence. How are they educating themselves on social media using online? So they have two different streams for selling products. So that's a really important opportunity for them. Also, part of the education is, when are your hours? You can bring, if we want to go this route, how is the storefront being presented? Helping businesses make sure that they're maximizing sales through how the layout is. So those are some of the opportunities we could do to enhance how are you doing as a brick and mortar, but also diversifying with that online opportunity.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I think I will pivot to you, Nick. I think you have a.
All right, thanks, Alyssa. Let's see if I have the ability to share my screen as well. Looks like I do. So thank you everyone for having us here today. Nick Popenook with Tiberius Solutions. I'm a public finance consultant in Portland, Oregon. Been doing this kind of work for cities and counties across Oregon for the last, 16 years now. And we were specifically asked to look at one of the potential tools for implementation, a source of financing known as tax increment financing. That's also in Oregon known as urban renewal. But that term urban renewal has become less and less used compared to tax increment financing, just given the fact that this tool can be used in a wide variety of places, many of which folks wouldn't particularly think of as urban. So I'm going to go over the results of our financial feasibility forecast for how tax increment financing could work in Lakeview's downtown. A few key points about how tax increment financing works overall. First is that this is a division of property taxes. That means that in order to raise this funding, since there's no such thing as free money out there, this money has to come from somewhere. And it is not an increase in property taxes. So no one within the city or the town of Lakeview will be paying more in taxes, but instead the overlapping taxing districts would be foregoing the future increase in their own property tax revenues. And that includes the county, and so that's certainly one of the reasons why we're here talking to the county today, is because this is a tool that, while powerful, does have trade-offs and in particular would impact the county as well as other taxing districts. Tax increment financing is limited primarily by something called maximum indebtedness. It's a wonky term, but that's what it's called in the state statutes. And it's essentially a total spending limit for the area. So if the town were to establish a tax increment finance district, it would need to state up front what its maximum indebtedness is. And eventually, when it were to incur that full amount of debt, or to spend that amount of money on projects, it would then need to cease spending money and pay off the debt and close the district down. Additionally, some plans do have a duration provision where they say, regardless of whether we hit our maximum indebtedness, we're closing this thing down after 20, 25, or 30 years. The funding that is generated by TIF, tax increment financing, for short we call that TIF, and I'll probably use that acronym throughout this presentation. Funding from TIF can only be used to pay for capital projects. So it could be used to build a new road downtown, but it couldn't be used to then do street sweeping or other kind of maintenance activities in the future for that facility. And for a TIF district to be established, the town must determine that the area is blighted. That term is a statutory term. It's defined in the state law, and it has a number of different criteria that can be met. But some of the ones that are most relevant for this particular area include buildings that are unfit or unsafe to occupy due to deterioration or dilapidation, inadequate streets, rights-of-way, open spaces, or utilities, and the prevalence of depreciated property values or impaired investments. So those are all some of the criteria that the statutes would define as being blighted. For another illustration for exactly how tax increment financing works, at the time that a new TIF district is created, the county assessor would look at the total assessed value in that area and determine that that is the frozen base. In all future years, any taxes generated from that frozen base would keep going to all the overlapping taxing districts. So however much tax is being generated in that area today would continue to go to those taxing districts in future years. But as the value in that area increases over time from appreciation and new construction, that increase in value becomes known as the increment, and taxes from that increment go back to the TIF district where they're invested in a specific list of projects in that area. Over time, the TIF district achieves its maximum indebtedness or hits its duration provision, and then it needs to close down. And for successful districts, they would have increased the assessed value significantly more than what would have happened without that investment. And now, after it terminates, that increase in value does go back to the overlapping taxing districts. So it's a delayed increase in value for all of the districts that are foregoing their revenue. There is a small little piece of yellow or gold coloring on the chart here showing shared revenue. And this is a relatively newer addition to Oregon's tax increment finance laws that say over time, tax increment districts can actually share a portion of those revenues with the affected taxing districts early, so they don't have to wait as long to receive the benefits from the new construction going on there. The process for establishing a district is pretty well defined in state statutes again. One thing that's not required but is definitely recommended and something that is used across the state is establishing an advisory committee and conducting public outreach. So for a tool that is as complicated as TIF, it really is important to make sure that key stakeholders, including the affected taxing district and the general public, get to weigh in on this and understand, is this a good use of the community's resources? And if so, what's the right boundary, what's the right duration, and what's the right list of projects that we should be funding? As part of that process, the town would then be working to confirm and refine the proposed boundaries of the district. We will show some boundaries today, but those are only for planning purposes, certainly not set in stone. That process would also identify the specific projects that would be funded in the area. The TIF district, even though it can have a long lifespan, typically 2 or 3 decades, the projects that are funded need to be identified up front in an adopted plan. So it's not just a piggy bank or a slush fund for folks to fund whatever projects they want in the future. Those projects have to be identified up front in an adopted plan. And during this process, again, folks would agree on expectations for the length of the plan and maximum indebtedness. One thing that is required by state law is to do outreach to those affected taxing districts. So there's a consult and confer process that's required where the town would have to share all the information with the county on what it's proposing to do for a tax increment finance area and provide the county opportunity to comment on that. And then again, required by state law, there are several meetings, public hearings during that approval process. That includes a planning commission meeting. You'd have to establish a new urban renewal agency, and it would have to have a public hearing, and the town council itself would have to have a public hearing. So a good amount of public process that will be required. This isn't something that just happens overnight or can happen without a significant amount of public improvement. One additional piece that I not on the slide, but that I would highlight for the county is that if the boundary were to include any unincorporated areas, something that's not currently in the town city limits, then that's not something that the town can do on its own. The town would then need to seek county approval of that plan. And so moving forward, as the town looks at different boundary options, anything that includes unincorporated properties, that would mean that the county then is in a position where you have to approve this plan or else it can't go forward. The boundary that we looked at for the Lakeview Community Partners with Ginger is shown on the screen here. It's not just the core downtown area that you think about, but also includes a lot of other commercially zoned property along key transportation routes in the area, as well as major sites that have potential for redevelopment. This slide shows an overlay between some of the key opportunity sites for redevelopment marked with X's on the map, and then some of the key transportation improvements that are identified to be needed in the area marked in blue on the map. And if we have questions on this, then I think Alyssa can go into this later on and describe sort of exactly what the thought process was behind coming up with this proposed boundary. But in addition to the downtown boundary that we were looking at with Ginger, the town of Lakeview itself was also interested in looking at this tool potentially being used to focus on residential investments. So the blue areas on this map, and I think several of these you'll notice being outside of the existing town limits, are areas where the town has been thinking about potentially using this tool to invest in new residential construction or rehabilitation of existing residential properties. And I think that gets back to some of the comments that we heard from the county board earlier, where there's a need to invest in downtown, but also a need to provide housing so that you have places for people to live who would fill those jobs in downtown. The two boundaries shown here are larger than what is allowed by state limits. So each of them on their own complies with state limits, but combined they would be too large. The state says that for any city or town that has tax increment finance as a tool, no more than 25% of its acreage or 25% of its assessed value could be included in that. And so if the town were to choose to move forward with this tool, it would need to take a hard look at these boundaries and make some cuts to decide where do we really want to focus our investments. The results of our financial forecast are shown here. The light gray area on here shows the actual tax revenues that are forecast over time. This is just from the downtown boundary, as that's the focus of today's presentation. Sorry, I skipped ahead one slide there. So this is showing the gray area is the forecasted tax revenue. This is forecast based on 3% growth, appreciation in the existing properties, but then about half a dozen of those key opportunity sites that could redevelop over the next 10 to 20 years. And of the potential new development that could take place here, the site with the most potential to increase assessed value is the Lakeview lumber site. So that's one that has been looked at in the past. Some analysis has been done showing potential land use options there. And if it were to redevelop along the lines of what we've seen in the studied for that area, it could add potentially $20 million of assessed value back on the tax rolls. And that would be a lot of what's fueling this growth in value in these early years. The blue bars are showing each year how much you actually have to be able to spend on projects in this area if you account for inflation and turn it back into today's dollars. And so you can see, even though over time the tax revenues keep going up fairly significantly, the actual amount of funding each year kind of stabilizes a little over $500,000 per year in this area, just due to inflation long term. One opportunity that the area does have to fund more projects sooner is to use financing. And this is an approach that a lot of tax increment finance districts do use, where every few years, rather than just spending the money as it comes in, they'll go to a bank or go to the bond market and incur debt so they can do some larger projects periodically over time. This example is showing how you could fund projects in the $1 million to $2 million range every few years. Doing this looks great, and it certainly does help you fund larger projects sooner, but now you have debt service payments to make over time, and that means in the interim years, you actually have less funding available because more of your annual revenue is being used to pay that debt service. To summarize the financial figures that we're looking at, we show that this particular downtown boundary might generate around $28.5 million of tax revenue over the next 30 years, and that could support that maximum indebtedness, the total amount that you could actually spend on projects, somewhere between 24 and 28 million. The reason why it's a lower number with financing is, again, a portion of your actual revenue is not going to be used to pay for the principal cost of projects, but interest on the debt that you've incurred. When we adjust for inflation and look at what that really means in today's dollars, we're looking at the ability to fund projects between $14 or $15 million in the area. And again, not all of that would be available up front. It would slowly build over time. So the money in the first 5 years is somewhere between $700,000 to $1.5 million. And then we're looking at $2 to $3 million sort of in 5-year chunks over time beyond that. So I said at the start of this presentation that this is not free money. There is no free lunch. This funding has to come from somewhere, and it would come from the overlapping taxing districts, including the county. This is showing the cumulative anticipated impacts over that 30-year period. As we showed on the last slide, we're projecting $28.5 million of tax revenue potential here, and that would come from these individual taxing districts as shown. The town of Lakeview's general fund would actually be the most impacted jurisdiction here. And then the county general fund would also be significantly impacted. So it would be important if the town were to move forward with this, the types of projects being discussed and the benefits to the community are worth these trade-offs shown here. Important to note the asterisks down here on the education side of things for the school district and education service district. Although their tax rate is impacted, and so they would forego these revenues, the state has a equalization formula where every school district across the entire state receives the same amount of funding per student. And if local tax revenues go down, whether it's from a TIF district or any other reason, those schools don't directly lose out on funding, but instead the state school fund contributes a larger dollar amount to bring them up to the same level as other districts statewide. So even though there is local property tax revenues impacted here, it does not have a direct impact on actual funding for the schools. One last technical detail I'll get into here is on property tax compression. This is a particularly complicated topic, and I don't think we have time today to go into depth on it, although I do have some additional slides I could show if folks really want to get into the weeds. But back in the 1990s, the state voters approved property tax limits. That means that any individual property can't pay more than $10 per thousand of their real market value for general government taxes, and a similar limit of $5 per thousand for education. But our tax rates that we impose on people actually exceed those limits in a lot of communities, including in Lakeview. The reason why the rates can exceed those limits is because folks aren't actually taxed on their real market value anymore. They're taxed on their assessed value. And again, back in the 1990s, those two things were separated from each other. In a lot of communities across the state, like in Portland, property values have been skyrocketing in recent years, so the real market values are way above the assessed values, and that allows them to impose tax rates significantly above the $10 per thousand limit and $5 per thousand limit, because the real market value is so much lower than, or so much higher than the assessed value that's actually being taxed. In the town of Lakeview, however, the assessed values and real market values are pretty similar, or in many cases are identical, because they just have not had the growth in real market value that other communities have seen. And that means that the tax rates that are being imposed for general government, including the county, aren't being collected fully because it would exceed that $10 per thousand limit. So as an example, the town of Lakeview itself, 14% of the taxes that it imposed last year weren't collected because it would have exceeded the compression limits. And so one thing that we look at in any kind of activity or program that might see new investment in the community and might re-energize and reinvigorate the community is, could this have a positive impact on property values? Would this allow property values to start increasing as has happened over much of the rest of the state? And if you were to make investments in your downtown, and if those investments did truly make this a more attractive, desirable place to live, where property values began to increase again and attract new investment to the community, that could help reduce this compression loss for all the taxing districts that are currently suffering. So to summarize I've got two slides on implications.
Sure.
Happy to take questions now, but otherwise, if I get to these next two slides, my presentation will be done and we can take more questions.
Yeah, sure, go ahead.
All right, so the key implications, up to $15.5 million in funding capacity from this tool in the downtown area. This using financing could increase the short-term capacity here, but decreases the long-term capacity. Only the town has the authority to establish a TIF district here. This isn't something that other community members or private entities can do. This would be something that the town would have to lead. And pursuing both the downtown and residential TIF districts would require cuts to either or both of those. Combined, they are too large to be done simultaneously. New construction that we have estimated in these forecasts is ambitious for the town, given the recent history, but it is reasonable given our familiarity with other communities using this tool. The TIF revenues do start slowly and build over time. Compression in this area is significant, but TIF has the potential to reduce it if you're able to spur growth in property values here. And the foregone revenues from affected taxing districts, including the county, is significant. Schools, however, are a separate matter where they are not directly impacted. And again, this analysis focused on financial impacts of TIF, but we did not get into social impacts on diversity, equity, inclusion, making sure that anytime you use this program, you're really using it to benefit the whole community and not just a subset of folks that might be more well off to begin with. So that's the conclusion of my presentation, and happy to take your questions now as well.
Yeah, just going back real quick, actually, to one of those previous slides. If you, I don't know if you can throw that back up again.
Yep, will do.
Yeah, just the actual revenue streams and where, when you develop the TIF, it kind of breaks it out, you know, the portion that would be coming, in these areas right here where it kind of shows some of the funding coming from the county, some of it coming from the town and the different districts within. Is this using the geographical footprint on the map that we saw in one of the previous slides, the entirety? Or is this just that core area that, because I know
this is for the downtown boundary here.
okay, just
So
for
this-
that area there, okay,
Yep.
Only the district.
Yeah, so if-
In that area.
okay,
If the community were to do, if the town were to look at the town has their own separate analysis showing the impacts in the blue area for residential.
right.
And
I
in
just
fact,
wanna
the
make sure
town council itself hasn't had a chance to receive this presentation yet. They'll be receiving it in a couple of weeks as well to get on the same page here, so.
Gotcha, okay. I just wanted to make sure that the numbers that we were looking at were reflecting of what we're looking at based on the core area and not the other blue area out there that you even said would have to have a hard look taken at, looked at, so.
So maybe.
Correct. These boundaries were a starting point, and again, there were sort of just two different studies happening at the same time. Moving forward, folks would really need to take a look at, I think, sharpening their pencils and cutting out properties from one or both of those areas to make sure that you were really including the areas that could most benefit from tax increment financing, and that you weren't, capturing too much land and assessed value that you're taking off of the tax rolls and
Right.
negatively impacting the other taxing districts.
Right, and going back to those impacts where you number those, are over what time frame are those? Those impacts right there. Is that over 1 year, 30 year? That's a cumulative
30
year
Yep,
impact.
yeah, those are 30 years, yeah.
Okay, right.
So the annual impacts are obviously much lower, and in the early years, they are particularly low, since this is a tool that starts off slow and builds over time.
All right. Okay. That helped me sum up some of the questions that I had there in my mind just as I was taking notes. Thank you.
Any other questions for Alyssa or Nick or myself?
What are the other options besides TIF? Just pure old fashioned cash?
Yeah, there you go. Other options are grants through, both federal and state and foundations. Some of the historic work there is both federal and state and foundation. I mean, those are the main ones. Donor, fundraising for these types of projects generally doesn't happen. It's mostly, through the sources that I just mentioned. One of the things that I think could potentially help early on, and Alyssa, help me with this if you think it's different, is to be able to have some sort of a revolving loan fund and or grant fund for the downtown area to help with sidewalk improvements, because as you probably know, the owners of the buildings own the property to the curb. So the sidewalks are definitely their responsibility, but as you can tell, that hasn't always happened. So for facade improvement, or things that help them make their buildings more livable for them as a business, heating, roof. I mean, the roofs in this town are in big trouble on almost every single one of our buildings. So especially in that smaller core area. So I think, looking at immediate and good results and yet necessary, not something to just say, oh, we did this, but something that can really impact would be some sort of a revolving fund similar to what the county has for, loans to businesses and industry and that sort of thing, but more directed to our buildings downtown. Alyssa, did you have anything to say about that?
Yeah, I was gonna just jump in on the question of what are those other funding sources available? And
Oh, thank you.
everybody loves to get state and federal grants. Those grants always wanna see matching local funds.
Yes.
And so, one way or another, it's really helpful for a community to come up with local dollars. Most other local funding sources are going to be an increase in taxes on the community. So you could use a general obligation bond to fund these kind of projects, where you'd be asking the public to vote for a tax increase on everyone in order to pay for street improvements. That's an option, but an option that can be politically challenging to pass. Similarly, you could use system development charges. So you could increase the amount that you charge new construction in the community to help pay for new capital projects. But by increasing those charges on new development, you make development less likely to happen in an area where you're really trying to encourage more development to happen. Another approach is a local improvement district, where you draw a line on a map similar to what we did with the tax increment finance district, and you say that the properties in that area are benefiting from these improvements, and so now they all have to pay for those improvements that are being made. And again, you're increasing the annual taxes on those specific businesses and property owners to help pay for those improvements being made. But again, instead of revitalizing your downtown or attracting new residential development, by increasing those fees and taxes, you're really discouraging those from happening. So having local funding sources is critically important. Most of them, with the exception of TIF, are going to be increases in fees and taxes, which can be really challenging in a community that's trying to encourage new development to take place.
Right, and that was one of the reasons why we decided to explore the TIF process, because it can be used to match and strengthen, whatever project financing needs to happen, so.
Right.
I know we've gone over and we appreciate you letting us, and those of you in the audience that have something that you're on the agenda. So if there are other questions, I'm more than happy to help them get answered. I might not have the answers, but I know some people who can have the answers. So I think I'm hoping that this is a discussion that we can go forward with in the future, that this isn't just the end of it. And I just we wanted to make sure that we had a formal presentation publicly and an opportunity for you to ask questions directly. So
sounds good. I think we're definitely going to have more questions moving forward.
Great.
Definitely more discussion to be had. But I do really appreciate the time that you guys have taken to give us this presentation. A lot of information here, a lot of things that it might take us time to digest.
sure, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks for your time.
All right.
All right.
Perfect.
Thanks, Nick and Alyssa.
Thank you guys. Appreciate you joining us today. All right, we'll move on real quick. Our time item, we're a little bit late. Brianna, on the Gala support.
Do I have to come up there?
Yes, you do,
Oh,
absolutely.
I do? All right.
You get to come up there.
Oh, I get to come up there? I'm moral support behind him. Yeah.
Okay.
There's only one seat up there, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
All right.
Change that.
Yeah. I wanted to first introduce Brittany. She's the new office manager and assistant to the director of the Lake County Chamber.
Yep.
And for those of you that don't know me, I'm the director, Brianna.
Nice to meet you.
Yeah, nice to meet you. A little backstory before I go into my real purpose here is I've been working since I started the chamber in August. My main goal was to work locally in Lake County to revamp our relationship with our businesses in town, and with the Gala being our annual and biggest fundraiser of the year. The reason I come to the commissioners is because I'm trying to reach out more in the community, the county as a whole. So this year we've had invited Paisley to give an award, which they've done in the past every other year, but we've changed it to where every year now they will be able to give out an Educator of the Year award at our Gala as well. I have a call into North Lake as well to hopefully bring them into, also I know that they do a gala with the North Lake Chamber, but I would like to eventually bring it back to a county as a whole. So the reason I'm here is asking to see if you guys would sponsor the gala this year. And in front of you is packets with our 3 top sponsorships for gala. The first one is $2,500. This gets you VIP seating up front by the stage. It's 16 gala tickets and 8 VIP tickets, which is essentially 16 VIP tickets also. 1 VIP ticket gets you and your significant other or whoever into the VIP section. This includes all advertising on Facebook, Instagram, in the paper, the whole 9 yards. She would be mentioned on everything, along with advertising at the event and sponsor gifts. So when we go into a business, or like per se you guys, it would say Lake County Commissioners on it, whatever our sponsor, whatever the gift is. We haven't fully released the gifts to you guys. We do that on purpose, so it's a surprise for you guys that night, what you get to take home. So it is within reason, don't worry. But that stuff, so it's like you can keep it at your business or here in this room or your offices, whichever. And essentially it goes down from there. Is there any questions on what happens at Gala? I guess I should have started with that, sorry. Have all of you been to Gala?
Well, we've been to Gala, but I believe so anyway, but you could give a little bit of background for the general public to have a better understanding of what the Gala is.
Okay, so the Chamber Gala is our biggest fundraiser of the year, which we give out community voted on awards along with Educator of the Year, Medical Professional of the Year, a Chamber Member of the Year. So essentially if you're a Chamber member, we go through and see what business has promoted Lake County as a whole in that aspect. The 4 that are voted on by the community are Junior Citizen of the Year, Senior Citizen of the Year, Community Improvement, and the Legacy Award. So Junior Citizen is an up-and-comer volunteer for the community, and they're nominated by members of the community. So you come in, you get a form, and it takes 3 letters along with which are support from other community members. So it wouldn't be like James nominating Barry. James would actually have to work for it. So you would have to find 3 other people aside from yourself to write a letter to explain why Barry deserves this award. Same with the Senior Citizen, but it is not necessarily based on age, which is a huge confusion for people. So it's a person in the community that has been volunteering for a long period of time. It doesn't necessarily, and age isn't really part of it. So like if you're involved in multiple things, that would be considered a Senior Citizen of the Year. Community Improvement is a business, a house, organization that has done something to enhance Lake County as a whole, what it has done to essentially make Lake County a better place. So after sitting through this morning, like Barb and their program essentially could be nominated for community improvement because what they've done has helped make Lake County better as a whole. And then the Legacy Award is a newer award that they started a few years back, and it is a second generation ran business or ranch that is still up and going in the community and is working with that still helps the community as well. So volunteer, like if they've donated to certain stuff, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And those ones are, like I said, are all nominated, and then our Gala committee group meets. We go over and see which one is the best fit person for those awards, and it's a secret essentially. So the person that's getting the award has no idea that's what's going on. And then we give out roughly, this year it's usually around 12 awards, but Paisley School District cannot make it this year, so they won't be there this year, but next year they would be. And Michael Carter met with me as well, and he's actually giving out 2 awards. So he'll give out Educator of the Year and Paraprofessional of the Year. So you don't necessarily have to be a teacher to get an award. And that's all based through the school. So they do that all themselves, and it's nominated through the school. And I believe Charlie does the same thing at the hospital. It's voted on by his employees. And then they give us a name and we take care of the rest.
Gotcha. Do you have a question? Go ahead.
Okay, good.
So you have to spend a lot of this money for gifts and awards and things like that. Is there money left over? And what does that money go towards?
So essentially in the past they've spent large amounts of money to put on Gala. One of my major goals this year, due to the circumstances that I walked into at the chamber, is there wasn't a whole lot of money left in our funds. So this money will actually go to promote the businesses in our community, what's left over. I don't know the exact number yet because I still have to talk to you guys, and I still have to meet with one other business that hasn't come in. But roughly right now, I'm over $20,000 in sponsorship, which will leave anywhere from $10,000 to $15,000 left over to go towards promoting the Lake County as a whole.
It's good to hear.
So not knowing really how it was done before, as far as I know that the county has been a sponsor of Gala in the past. Is that the case?
I don't believe so, but I don't have any records of that.
Okay.
We are starting fresh.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, so we're starting roughly completely from scratch per se on every aspect of what we've been working on.
Okay, Melanie, do you know if the county has ever sponsored Gala in the past?
I don't believe so.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I'm not sure on the ethical ability that we would have to be able to sponsor it and be able to take gifts or to qualify for gifts as elected officials, VIP tickets, and using some of these public dollars for those purposes, promotions, advertising of the event. I mean, advertising the county operation just seems, I'm not sure how we would be able to do that. I think as far as
I think we can make a contribution.
making a contribution, yeah, but we would have to exclude ourselves from any of those other things. And I think actually I would even take it a step further and say that, you know, with the money that we do give probably wouldn't necessarily be able to be go to gifts, but be used for assisting with the economic development and businesses and sponsoring them and helping them out. Not necessarily for gifts though.
Yeah.
That would probably have to be a condition of those dollars. I'm just speaking off the top of my head and just thinking out loud at the moment. But any other thoughts from the board?
I think you raised good points. There's probably a reason why county hasn't been a sponsor in the past. We may need to ask legal counsel, but you know, we all know anything over $50 is.
Yeah, we couldn't take anything over $50 anyway. But just
Doesn't mean other people can't go for us or something like that.
Right. And like I would buy a ticket myself if I were to go to Gala, I would buy it personally out of my own pocket,
Mhm.
and that would probably be more
Which
appropriate.
I'm hoping you all do. They go on sale tomorrow.
Okay.
What's the date on this though?
January 15th.
Yeah. Okay. So,
I appreciate all the work you guys have done. You know, Brittany, trying to get the chamber back on its feet. So my idea would be, I'd make a motion to contribute $2,500 to the chamber for business development or economic development.
do we wanna check with legal counsel before we do that? Maybe we do it tomorrow in a regular session too. Yeah.
Just to the chamber.
Yeah, just
Yeah,
to
just to the chamber.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah.
I get it.
And we could check with legal counsel and
Okay,
then make a decision. Well, that's fine.
perfect. So we'll have that on the agenda for tomorrow. I'll make sure we don't forget. In addition.
Do you want to tell us anything else about the chamber then? Some of the things that you want to shoot for, or your vision and
Like
Brittany's vision, so she's hiding in the
I
back.
am hiding in the back.
Support.
I will turn 10 shades of red up there. I am here for moral support.
So my biggest goal in the first year of being the director of the chamber is to rebuild the relationship between the businesses and the chamber itself. We've been working really hard on getting people excited about being back involved in the chamber and what we have to offer our small businesses throughout Lake County as well. Myself and the president of the board have been up in North Lake County a couple times. We attended the Harvest Festival, which was a lot of fun. We have been to Paisley a few times, so reaching out to those people, getting it back where we're, I guess the county as a whole in the chamber, that was my major goal. And having Brittany on with us, one of the things that's worked really well for us is the relationship with the ski hill that she's on that board, she sits there and she helps communicate back and forth, especially with, hopefully we'll get snow soon and there will be a ski hill, especially with that aspect of things. Brittany's been working really hard on revamping and looking into redoing the chamber website as a whole. It's not user friendly from your cell phone, and that is a huge thing with most people is you always have your cell phone. So we're working on redoing the website as a whole together and including the ski hill, hopefully including LCP and the Alger Theater. Lake County Roundup will be on it as well, like they said now, but she's working on that. I just got approval for May 11th to the circus is actually coming to town, and the chamber will sponsor the circus through the Lakeview School District. So we've teamed up, and Carter will have kindergarten through 6th grade. They'll be able to go down, watch the big top go up the whole 9 yards. It'll take place on school property. They'll be here for 2 shows, hopefully 3. We just signed a contract on that, so it's not really a fundraiser for it, a little bit, but not much. It was more of getting, like I said, getting people excited about being part of the chamber and being back in the community. So that's my goal.
Great.
Any more questions?
No, it's really good stuff. Thank you. Appreciate that.
You almost ran from the hot seat.
She did love that.
All right, well, that also appreciates you helping get us back on time.
Thanks, guys, for the presentation.
So up next, Sheriff Taylor, snow cap purchase. And then
We need 2 chairs. I got this.
You'll have buddies up there, like me.
The documents here, there's so many of them, we didn't run off.
Thank you, ladies.
Everything for everybody, but I think this is something that you guys can kind of take a peek at while we're presenting. These are photographs of the old snowcat. These are photographs of the new snowcat that we'd like to purchase. We're having some issues with our old snowcat. It is to a point that if it breaks down and the tracks come off, there's nobody that can repair them, and there's no new tracks that we can purchase to put on it if that does happen. It doesn't have a snow plow, makes it very difficult to get in and out of places that have berms of snow and when full of snow that has pushed up there. I think Commissioner Albertson, you would know this probably better than anybody, is those 2 ladies that were down by the reservoir on your family's property. They were down there for days and we couldn't get to them because we didn't have the tools to get down there. Luckily, we did eventually get there and get them out, and they were okay. But what's going to eventually happen with this snowcat that we do have right now, as we go into a desolate area that you can't access by any other means, it's going to break down. And then we're going to have some means to go in and rescue the rescuers. The purchase of the new snowcat is $179,000. Seems like it's kind of high. We do have $184,000 in the Title III budget that we can use without a new requisition. Total we have in there is $405,000. This is exactly what that Title III money's for, is to purchase equipment such as this. We do have uses of other snowcats with other people such as Paisley, but we have a responsibility, I believe, to provide our own tools for our own use instead of relying on everybody else's. One big problem with the snowcat that we do have, exhaust goes into the cabin. And that's obviously not a good thing. It doesn't have an area where we put injured persons to evacuate them out of the area that we have to go into. So it's a makeshift storage area that we can put them on. This new snowcat has that specific area where you can extricate injured people with the crew that we have. Luckily, we have Lisa Cahill, who's on search and rescue, who goes almost all the time. I don't think I can remember a time where she hasn't gone unless she's been out of town. Some of the new features of the new snowcat, and I'll let Daniel go through this, is the medical area, the blade, it's a 12-way blade where you can adjust that blade 12 different ways. And then there's some other things I'll have Daniel cover later on. I'm trying to find the requisition here. I've talked to the lady personally. She's been holding that snowcat for the sheriff's office with no commitment until it's approved by the Board of Commissioners. So she will not release that until it is approved or not approved. But the guarantee is that the day we notify her, if it's not approved, that snowcat will be gone. There's a line of people that want it. It's in exceptional condition. Here is the bill for it. So it is $179,000. It's not going to go up, no hidden costs. And there'll be some added features that's not on that right now that they will provide for us. So Daniel, if you want to go with the pros and cons of what we have with the old snowcat versus the new snowcat, I appreciate it.
So the old snowcat, the 1968-ish LMC, we got that early 2000s for the price of, it was either $1,500 or $2,500 from the Forest Service. Kind of a hand-me-down from them. We got more than our money's worth out of it. Obviously some of the issues are it doesn't have a blade on it, so anytime you're going over a drift, you're riding that drift down. That is how we use to get some of our radio text to our mountaintop repeaters. So we use it a lot for SAR, we use it equally as often for fixing our radio repeaters in bad weather. So and when you get those mountaintops, you're riding some pretty big drifts down. You get up there, you gotta walk the tracks back and forth to beat those drifts down instead of kind of knocking them down and building you a ramp or something with the blade. The tracks are shot. The rubbers, you look in there and see some lines coming across there. If we ever do replace them, we're gonna have to probably find another third-party vendor that would get a custom job. If it breaks down, there's no one that we can call to come rescue it. And then the exhaust leak. Currently, in the last 2 years, we've been using the Snowmobile Association snowcats. In order to have a snowcat, you have to agree to use it for search and rescue if called upon. The Paisley's been great with letting us use theirs. We have our own members actually operating it with their permission. The problem is, again, their snowcats don't come with a trailer. We don't have a trailer for them, so we're using our volunteer members' personal trailers. Specifically, the Lehman Ranch out of Summit Lake's been helping us with that one up north, because most of those missions have been up out of the Finley Butte Road out of La Pine. We're running between, on an average year, 10 to 20 calls with the snowcat. You don't see it on the road a lot during daylight hours, because generally our calls are coming in after dark, and we're getting rolling 9, 10 o'clock at night. So it's rolling middle of the night a lot of the time. So last year we had a lot of searches in the springtime off the Finley Butte Road. We had so many searches. We had the chutes assist us on every other one. We're getting calls every night for stuck people, and we were taking turns on who was going that night. It's a short response for the chutes. They'd be out there in a couple hours, but it would take us 4 to 6 hours to get out to them. So, anyways, the new snowcat, it's an 05 Tucker. It's newer, but it is used at the end of the day. A new snowcat's running between $275,000 to $310,000. This is an 8-person cab. Those are what's hard to find. That's what the demand's for. That's why even though these prices up there because everyone wants the bigger cabs. It has it seats 8. The seats fold down and put that litter on there, so you can actually work on a patient as you're coming out. It's in good shape. It's been stored in a shed throughout its entire life. Tucker says, one of our guys talked to someone at Tucker, they said we'd be foolish not to go with it. I confirmed that this morning. They said, yeah, that's a pretty good deal because everyone wants that big cab.
Yep, it's a beautiful cab.
And that's the issue with using the Snowmobile Association. We have one operator and you got one more passenger. So if you're going in and get 3 people out of the car, you're not really able to tax them out. So.
Right. So we would have to probably check with legal and confirm on a sole source for this purchase, I'm thinking, and how we would justify that purchase. Well, go ahead.
So in asking about that kind of stuff and knowing some folks with contracting on, because it's a used piece of equipment.
Yeah.
That should make it a little easier for us because
Yeah, I was thinking that.
we asked for an 8-person cabin. We've been looking for snowcats for the last several years, and this is the one that fit the bill. And sound said, "Hey, we found the one." And our guys been looking California, Oregon, Idaho, Nevada.
And like you say, you know, I mean, buying a new one could be twice this.
And obviously, buying a new one, you would go through that. I'd go through that government procurement process.
Absolutely. So
So, yeah. And then with that snowcat, I mean, we still have some other winter needs to get the folks. You know, we're running. So this isn't the end all cure all, one shoe fits all, but just to be aware, we're running 20-year-old snowmobiles that are breaking down. We haven't had a mission the last 2 years where we've been able to use them without having to tow one out. We're also, hoping eventually to get tracks on 2 of our side-by-sides, one on each end of the county with cabin heater, because that really helps us in the springtime when you have that mud snow combo, which is also the same thing the snowcat's going to help with. The problem is the snowcat's one piece of equipment. If we're actually out there searching for people,
right?
You know, we have one snowcat. Well, we'll have 2 now. We'll have the old one.
Yeah.
And the other thing is, remember, is the old cat does 11 miles an hour. This one between 25 to 30 top speed. So
That's actually pretty significant. I don't know if I'd want to go 30 miles an hour in this thing, but
it depends on the roads. I mean, Philly Butte Road on the straightaway is nice.
Well, so that brings me to my next question. What do we have to haul this? Are we getting a trailer with it, or does this fit on the current trailer? Or
This should fit on our current trailer.
Okay.
I don't know. We're still trying to figure that out. We have an old orange trailer we found that we might go cut down and use for the old snowcat, but the new snowcat on the trailer we're currently using, there's some options there. But trailers that is an issue. We're short on trailers.
Yeah, because this might require a low boy of some sort. I don't know.
I think it's actually lighter than our old one.
Really?
And the nice thing about Tucker's is you can go to Napa and get parts. And if nothing else, they're made in Medford, so those guys are willing to come over and spend a couple hours with us doing some demo because they're driving through Lakeview all the time. I'm gonna see the guy next week. So.
Okay. All right. And the last thing, just so we're clear, where are we planning on finding the dollars to make this purchase? Title 3. Okay. Just for the record.
Good.
Okay. Other questions?
Yeah. Do we obviously don't have a shed to put this in. So that probably needs to be a priority in the future. We can find it to get it undercover. Should be.
And I think that needs to be a further conversation, period, because all of our buildings were, when they built those, I don't know if they're built for what they had at the time, but not the future. So we really barely can get our snowmobile on a trailer and they're whistled around. We gotta hand move them around, we gotta move the sleds around so we fit it. I mean, it's tight. So, yeah, there needs to be some legal.
Good.
Out at the airport, we have the old bomber's shed that they could keep it there until later on down the road. And that shed or that
Be a good shelter.
be a good shelter for it out at the airport. We don't use it anyway, so
It's not a bad option.
I just wanted to throw that out there.
Okay.
The little bomb shelter. Perfect.
Hey, I say take it.
The brand Tucker, is it a Tucker?
If it's a Tucker, I don't know the model number. It's like on the last page with the emails on that sheet, it has hours, 700 hours on it.
So are parts for it American or European or do we know?
Probably American.
Yeah.
Just curious how
They're
difficult
made in Medford.
are they
Chuck Messer said you get the parts at Napa.
in Napa? Okay, that's a good thing.
Yes, that's what we thought.
And then why don't we sell the old?
Well, this is what we want to do. And are we gonna do the North Lake? Is that on the agenda? Well, the
Yeah,
second part of
that's-
this is we need a place, excuse me, in North Lake, to store some search and rescue equipment. We don't wanna get rid of this one. We wanna use it till it dies. And the thought process is you taking this, putting it up in North Lake and using it up in North Lake, because when we need a snowcat up in North Lake, like Deputy Tate already said, it takes 4 or 5 hours, maybe longer, to get everybody collected, get the gear and head up there. If we had equipment up there, my thought is we would have more volunteers up in North Lake able to respond immediately. Now, we do have property up there that we can utilize. We just need a secure fence around it and a building to put in it to secure the equipment, and that's on the road department property. Talked to Kevin Hawk, and he says that that is available to us, so that we don't have to go searching for property or anything like that. But to answer your question, is it'll be best be utilized, in my opinion, by moving it down here up to North Lake.
Yeah, if we approve this, and you guys do go forward with that plan, I just ask that you evaluate it. If you're not using it, sell it. Well, it's still got some life.
It'll be used.
And I think looking in the long term, it'd be nice, transfer this one up north, because then they have something to at least start with, and then the one from the south end can be running up as well. So eventually about 2 caps on the mission, and if it breaks down, we haul it out. And then hopefully, looking into the future, we would get a grant at some point in time to get a newer cap and then transfer this one up there while there's still some useful life in it, and then we'd be in good shape. And that would be a nice end result.
Okay. So these guys brought up mainly my 2 questions. One was the transportation, being able to move it. The second one is I wanna make sure with this stuff and our snow machines and everything else are undercover in a good secured spot, because that's one reason they're junk now, is because the sun's been eating them up, the weather's been eating them up.
And the other problem is we don't get to run them in optimal conditions. You're not going out on a nice snowy day most of the time to do these things. We're going out there because someone got in trouble for some reason. But generally, it's not in optimal conditions. We're running them on snow.
It's never a fair weather operation.
Pavement. It's just not been good. And yeah, keep them in a facility is good. The north end, we keep trying to build up our membership up there. And they have no equipment, so it's hard to keep that membership going. Like, well, you just use this for our time, but we need equipment, and it also helps in getting to saving lives, having that equipment up there. Even if we don't have a large contingent of numbers, we can start people and manpower. It's quicker just taking a pickup up there than when you're in a pickup and a trailer.
Gotcha. Dave.
I was just going back to the airport with that Bloomington shed. It's completely empty now. Yeah, well, not completely, I mean, but if search and rescue was willing to put a little money into it, and I'm not saying a lot, but just to secure it up, there's bays in there that they could park snowmobiles. We could park that track in there. So for around here,
Yeah,
so that sounds power, and it has power to it. We can get power to it. If not, it's right there.
It's just right there, yeah.
So we don't really have a use for it. I mean, we could, but to help to store what they need stored, we have the room out there that we could make work for them. I don't know how inconvenient it'd be for
them. That shed, but
what's that?
I don't know if the new cat will fit in the shed.
It will.
The one end building
Well, then it's
is
a big
twice as tall and
Oh, okay.
pretty wide. We could just about put that big snowplow in there.
Even if it was on a trailer as well.
It'd be pretty close, I think.
Pretty close.
Yeah.
It's tall.
Okay.
It's got a good opening there.
They've
Because
kept water
that would
trucks
be
in
ideal
there.
if it was on a trailer
It needs a
already,
little
and
work.
all you have to do is back up to it and go,
Yeah.
you know. But
Yeah.
As far as the north end is concerned, we've been housing our equipment as personal property. For example, Deputy Raines was housed in the side-by-sides at his personal property because we have no secure facility up in the North Lake area that put this stuff. So
if I think it's your suggestion from talking with Kevin Hawk is a great idea. You know, if we could expand and maybe put on some other facilities and make some room at the county lot there, that'd be great.
There's plenty of room on that south end to build.
Yeah.
We just have to find the setbacks with the sewers and sewer lines and stuff like that. But
Right.
that whole backside, when I talked to Kevin, he didn't see a problem with it.
it's just another thought process that, you know, North Lake goes without a lot of times because the county seat is down here. So it's just another step advancing our efforts and the safety of the community in North Lake to do that.
So in all, you'd actually be looking at more like a two-door garage, basically, one where you could house potentially a snow cap, but also where you could put side by sides and different things like that, snowmobiles, and have room for other storage. Okay.
In fact, I think there are evidence lot out at in the south end here, where we have the connexes.
Yeah.
I think some equipment is stored in our connexes.
But where you gotta do it, yeah.
It's just out of desperation, you know, we gotta secure them somewhere.
Gotcha. Yeah, really good. So are you looking for us to act on the purchase of this snow cap tomorrow then?
Yes,
Okay.
yes. Like I had mentioned earlier, the lady that is storing that has been doing it for us out of a courtesy for a month or so. And I would like to notify her as soon as possible.
Perfect. Okay, well, then we'll be clarified on, how we can make the justification of the expenditure as a single source purchase. And just so it's clear for us when we make our motion and everything. And we'll hopefully act on that.
Well, thank you very much.
Any large associated costs with going and getting it?
Just per diem, probably, just lodging.
We have the trailer to go get it on.
Got a low boy trailer. We paid fuel and.
Is that through the road department or
No,
it's through source? Okay.
I don't know if we can say 9 times being over back there.
Right, that's usually how we do it, but, just in case, bad weather, it is winter, you never know when the snow's gonna fly, so just wanna keep everyone safe, so if you have to, you have to.
Okay. Do you gentlemen want to keep those documents and such? You're more welcome
We'll
to
need
keep
to keep this one.
Yeah, we'll definitely need to keep this one, the pictures are great, but,
I think the big thing is for talking to legal counsels, we've been looking for 3 years. And this is the first one, we came across an older one that was almost pretty close to fitting the bill, wasn't as quite as big as this one, so.
this looks like it's in pretty good shape. I mean, they definitely, immaculate would be the word.
And I think the overall vision that we need to look at is life safety.
Right.
What's going to get us there, what's going to get us back.
And not create another emergency on the way.
And the volunteers are kind of getting tired of breaking down and, we put our time and our volunteer time into this, and we're getting broken down, having to be rescued, and they aren't getting the role.
We probably need to start looking at some snow machines too.
Yep, so we got a committee that's put together what we needed for equipment, big picture, and then we broke that down, and we're, focusing on our winter stuff, because that's what we're struggling right now. And then we prioritize those 3 things, the snow cap, the tracks, the snowmobiles, so they're all kind of, well, we don't have tracks on the side by side, but the snowmobile are in bad shape. Yeah, so maybe keep that on the radar as well.
Baby step.
Yep, one day at a time.
One step at a time.
Alright,
Thank
sounds
you.
good. Alright, next up, Dave Berman.
Can we do the airport
Absolutely.
first? Tom needs to get going, so.
Sure, absolutely, let's do that. We'll go with the amendment on the BLM C Lease. Sorry for the wait, John.
Yeah, no problem.
Thank you. Hanging out. Okay. Alright.
As you guys know, we're going in partners with BLM C base out there on our FAA project, our taxiway project. And so for us to be doing that, we gotta go and change the minimum of our contract with them, our agreement with them. Because they're forking up the money for the project at C base, that is reimbursement to the county. The county is no different like when we do with the FAA. We get the money, we absorb it, we take care of it, and we reimburse, and they pay us up to, I think it's $1.9 million.
Just over 1.9.
So all this is just stating that that's what we're doing in our regular or agreement with them. So you got any questions, ask Tom.
He's like, it's not my problem now. Here you go.
There you go. Delegation. Yeah, decentralized command, that's what happens. I don't really have a lot of questions. I kind of asked you a few questions earlier. Just wanting to clarify the actual amendment. So, and how these dollars, some of these dollars might be used in, the reimbursement and how that takes place. Is there any questions?
Because what it does, it all kind of put light on it. our engineers that we hire,
Right.
it's contracted with the county. They're engineering, they've got the BLM engineers and they're putting this all together and so whatever costs, say to the engineers for the seat base, that is what we reimburse and they pay and then, so forth. So to make it clear that you guys understand it that way.
Is that right, Tom?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, no, and the good part about doing this is a joint deal right now is we've got the same engineers that's doing our FAA grant stuff right now for the taxiway in front of that seat base as well. So it's all gonna come together at one time, save some costs for both sides, as far as the engineering goes. And then we're hoping, same with the construction. We got the contractor coming in, they're bringing all their stuff, all that mobilization cost is once instead of twice. So that gives us both construction projects getting done at the same time. And, they're gonna be, BLM's gonna be able to get larger aircraft in there, up to 20,000 pounds is kind of what they're looking at right now. So instead of 750 gallons of retardant, it looks like it's gonna be closer to 900 gallons possibly. So just a little better response there and gets us the improvements we need on that taxiway, because that taxiway right now is the weak link between a $3 million runway and an almost $3 million parking area. And if the taxiway breaks down, it's not good for anybody as far as us or the BLM. So this will be kind of the final step in that whole process right there with what we've been focusing on to get it, more inviting and safer for the aircraft coming in.
Gotcha.
And kind of help them out with their response time too. It'll expand the contract with the BLM out through 2048. Will be the 30 years. That's quite a long stretch, so that's good.
So we won't have to look at this for 30 years.
Yeah, by that time, probably none of us are gonna care too much, right?
That's right.
James.
Yeah.
I'm not even,
Yeah, I don't think any of us are gonna be around here.
if I'm still here then too.
Yeah.
Probably be before that, but yeah.
You'll be using this disabled grant.
Right. Okay.
But, yeah, is there any other questions on that? I mean, that's really, the amendment is just to get the agreement together so that those funds can be, as we finish the process, say engineering first, they invoice us, we pay it, then, we can invoice them and we get reimbursed.
Right.
So as each section goes, we'll just get.
So it's gonna work just like our other project.
Just like the FAA's.
Just like the Chrissy grant, just like the every grant we do, it's just like getting a grant, except for it's not grant dollars.
Very similar process.
Yeah.
On a totally different subject, real quickly. I don't wanna drop the ball, I wanna get another, tank trailer or another tank set up so we can store more fuel out there, whatever you guys wanna do, but I think we need to make sure we start that process now.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah, and
we
it's-
don't have the same problems that we've been having.
Right, we can actually stay ahead of it a little bit better that way. Well, the one thing we looked at in the past was possibly having another truck out there that could be used as a storage facility, but talking with Burns, the fire marshal shut them down on that. They had a 6,000 gallon truck that was available for use of storage, and they said, no, you can't do it. As a storage vehicle, they're not gonna allow that for long term. So that leaves us back at.
Can we use a trailer or do we just put it in another tank?
Well, that would be the thing. I've got to find out, is it just the tank that they're allowing us? Or is maybe that was just such an old truck that they said, no, it's a single wall truck, we're not gonna let you do it.
Well, can
And
you
that's
find
very
that
possible.
out so we can get that process, cause I'd like
Yeah.
to get rolling on this before.
Yeah.
Fire season again,
Oh, yeah,
so.
okay, yeah.
Because I mean, our storage capacity was such that we had to be planning, days ahead of time where it'd be nice if we could be planning a month ahead of time.
Yeah.
And have extra fuel on hand.
Right. Well, and the good thing is, if we have the volume, when the fuel prices do drop.
Yep.
We can pick up that fuel and then we actually make a better profit with the county.
Take
You know,
advantage of
long
that.
term, during the summer months when prices are gonna skyrocket, they do every year. So
Right.
if we can fill that ability and know we can get it offloaded in 6 months, then we're money ahead of the game, maybe thousands of dollars ahead of it. So,
Right.
yeah, eventually. I mean, I think in 5 years, you could probably pay for an extra tank just in the savings by buying the fuel at the right time. So, you know, that's pretty,
Well, like
Pretty
that
good
outfit in Klamath that we bought fuel from a few times, they had, at one point, had 67,000 gallons on hand.
Yeah.
And like, with us having 8,000 or less on hand, it makes it a lot harder to operate.
yeah.
So,
Yeah, and we get into another critical time where we're trying to guess what's gonna happen over a 2 to 3 week time. It's impossible. Because we could fill those tanks up and in 3 weeks we get one fire. And, you know, then if we've got another order coming in, where are you gonna put it? Eventually, we're gonna end up paying for fuel that didn't even get here, you know?
Right.
So,
well, and then we're having some problems with the shipper, and
yeah,
I just don't wanna do that again.
no, I agree. Yeah. Make me happy to not stress over that. On a personal selfish level.
I would much rather work on the top half than the bottom half.
Yeah.
And that way it's a lot more, it's better all the way around, I think, so.
Yeah.
And if we're gonna start expanding the airport, we're gonna need that fuel anyways, right?
Exactly, yeah. Well, with jet fuel, we could double our capacity for storage right now and we're gonna get rid of it. I mean, it's not a problem.
Our airport's been really busy year round.
Yeah.
Of course, the weather's kind of like that. But we got a lot of people landing here.
It's good.
Yeah.
It's really good. So, yeah. All right. Yeah, we'll act on that tomorrow then. It's good.
Thanks.
One thing I had was, if you look at Exhibit C, page 5, talks about the domestic well.
Okay,
Just remember we're gonna check with BLM to see if we can still utilize the current well.
right. And I have not got a firm answer on that, so I'll call Chad again
We need
and
to
find out from Chad
work on
if
that.
we could do that. You're right, yeah.
And then, you know, my understanding, I know we got delayed with COVID and everything, but I thought work was supposed to start this fall with the BLM.
It was, but we never got the agreement from the BLM to start in the fall. So, and then when we got extended to starting in spring with our project, then I think everybody just assumed, you know what, let's just do them together to keep those costs down, so they just go out right. Because about the time we started getting the paperwork together, fire season hit and BLM wouldn't even return a call really. Not that they were ignoring it, they just didn't have time for it, you know? Yeah, it just needed to be, which is gonna work out pretty good, I think. I mean, we're gonna start March, it sounds like possibly, start
You're gonna have to
breaking
shut
ground.
down
And then,
June, right?
well, now we talked to the BLM, or the engineers talked to the BLM about come June, or it may be close to the end of June before that construction is done. Just because of the time it's taken us to get the agreement from them. And they're understanding about that. They said they understood, they just didn't have a choice to, you know, the manpower to do what needed to be done. So we may be a month behind on that process, but we'll still have, the way we're gonna do it in sections, they'll be able to get aircraft in and out without being shut down. You know, by the time fire season gets here, it should be done. But if not, they've still got an alleyway in and out of that retardant base.
Gotcha.
So,
Okay.
yeah. So I think we're still good even on that time frame.
Sounds good.
Looking forward to it. I know the new seat base that's in Burns has really benefited everybody.
Been good for them,
Yeah. Added capacity, so. As much as Lakeview gets used now, it'll be a nice addition.
Yeah, it'd be nice to have that, yeah. Extra parking area and everything for the aircraft, because we put in that new parking area down by the FBO, which is pretty much stayed full all summer with the aircraft, but, you know, if they expand it so they can put 2 or 3 more down there, that'll be huge. They'll keep that bottleneck from happening to where everybody's waiting on each other, you know. Good deal.
Good.
Yeah.
Great. All right, well, thank you, Tom, appreciate
Thank you.
your time.
Yeah. Back to you.
Thanks, Tom.
Yeah, you bet.
All right, fun stuff here. We'll go to landfill fees.
2 things, mainly on the landfill fee. First, I want to talk about the tires. As you know, I've talked to all of you guys all know what I'm talking about. I have to raise the prices on passenger tires, light truck tires, and truck tires.
What are they currently?
Well, currently passenger tires are $2, light trucks $5, and truck tires are $7. But what it costs me to get rid of them is, for passenger tires, it costs me $4.50 to get rid of them. Then for light trucks, it's $5, and for truck tires, it's $13 to get rid of them now. So we're upside down. We got so many tires we have to get rid of them. We're paying to get rid of them, basically. I mean, we're losing money to get rid of them.
And how many are you allowed to have on site?
100. We're
Only 100.
Only 100. We're not compliant. Or if we do a contract with the tire recyclers, if you do trailers, they'll bring in a trailer, you know, a container, and it's $1,300 every time they empty that. So to me, that you know, you can have more than 100 tires because they're not laying on the ground; they're in that trailer. So I'm once we get this figured, I'm going to push for. Once I get those tires out, I'm going to push for a container to put tires in, and then when they're full, it's just like our TVs and electronics. We call and say, hey, we're about full, and they schedule a time, come pick up. They take that, drop it off, and then send us a bill for and it's one solid cost every time.
Right.
Instead of individually picking them up when they come to go recycle.
Yeah, right, makes it a lot
And
easier.
I want to talk to you guys. I don't really, it says, or some places accept wheels, but then they double the cost. I would rather not accept wheels on the tires. I'd rather have them break them down and they put the wheels in the metal pile and then put the tires inside. Before they even bring them, I don't accept them. But that's something we can talk about. Like they need
It's costing you guys labor time to have to break those tires down.
Right. And it's just a pain in the butt. So.
And so why is it that we can only have 100 on site?
That's just what our operation plans said in the beginning. That's
Right.
what they do. And that's what, you know, DEQ holds us to our operation. That's what they go by. We write the
Right.
operation plans,
And they just go by that.
they go by. And to get it amended, it takes probably a year to amend it. You got to go through. Now, why do you want to do this? So it's just better to raise the prices and get rid of them.
And their concern is exactly with that, without having a lot of tires. I mean, aside from it being opposite of what our plan is, what exactly is the impact from having these tires?
Fire hazard.
So hazard.
Hazard.
Well, maybe the DEQ should clean up their toxic waste chemical site that they have dumped out in the desert then.
Well, that's another story.
Yeah, it is.
That's not my deal. It is on county property.
No, it's DEQ, so,
I don't want to touch that one, just to be honest with you.
Right. So, what is the plastic and wire currently at?
$40 a yard.
So that's not changing.
I'm not changing that. This you have is our transfer site. So none of this changes up here. This is all still within our transfer site, because it's not going into the landfill. So I do have to say, the other day my transfer guy in Christmas Valley, our new guy out there, Mike, he wasn't sure how that all mapped out. He wasn't thinking we're not weighing it. And he calls me up and he says, called me twice, he said, well, Dusty's been off both weekends in a row. on the cost to the tonnage. And I go, there is no cost to the tonnage, it's all like yes. And one of them, he was $10 over, and one he was $30 over. So he's doing a pretty good job measuring the garbage that comes in to match the tonnage.
Yeah.
So I'm going,
Over a whole weekend.
so then once I explained it to Mike, I go, oh, that's right, because he was just getting, they were trying to do the math.
Gotcha, right.
But now they
So
know, they figured it out here at the landfill, Mike did. Going, oh, that's right, you know, and then so, but, you know, I'm just like, oh my goodness, look how close he is on, you know,
Yeah.
$30
Impressive.
off, one way or the other. So he's doing a pretty good job.
Every week part of that's
Yes,
that.
in a way.
Yeah.
So anyway, and then my other topic is minimum cost at the scales. We have to do something for a lot of reasons, for safety, for liability, should I say, more than safety, liability, and then also we're going to make a little bit more money, you know, without raising the time, because you are going to make a little more money. And so anyway, as you know, it's just a safety, it's a liability. So it's time I feel that we need to up our minimum to $5. So.
Could you explain to me why we need the employees we need on site?
Got to have one managing skill, and then this is in our operation plans. Keep in mind, this is DEQ holds us to this. It's not this is what I want. It's
This is the plan.
This is the plan of the operations of a landfill. You have to have someone manning the scale house at all times. You have to have someone screen the garbage in the tip and shed at all times. And you have to have the pit. You have to have garbage. You know, you have to have an operator, and you have to have people screening the garbage. Because what we're up against, we don't have a line pit. And if people are sneaking oil in there, or gases, or propane tanks, tires, batteries, eventually that's going to come in our well testing. It's going to leach through, and eventually we're going to have, might not be for 20 years, but someday it's going to get through, and the DEQ is going to shut us down. So that's why you really got to monitor that. Now, if we was to go put a liner in it, we wouldn't have these worries. If oil got in it, you know. And plus, if we put a liner in it, which is a lot of money, but if we right now we're our lowest, you got to be 50 feet from the water table. If we had a liner, we could knock our landfill down to another 20 feet from the, you know, so we'd have another 20 foot of able to place garbage or so. So that being said, with it being so low, eventually, so that's why you got to screen it. So that's why you really got to watch what goes on the tipping floor, and you need the manpower to do that, because you got to have someone in the scale weighing and making sure the weight's right. You have when people in the tipping shed, they're throwing, you don't want anybody going there and throw 5 gallons of transmission oil, old oil, they hide it in there, and then we can get it out there, and eventually it just seeps through. And one of these days it will catch it. So that's why you have to have the 3 guys there all the time. Right. Now on Wednesdays that we're open, we don't even open the till. It's all commercial, and they don't even go in the tipping shed. So we have a scale house guy, and we have an operator out there that monitors kind of, you know, the garbage that comes out of those trucks. We've been doing a pretty good job. We got radios now, so if we're looking at those bins and tires come out or a bucket of oil comes out, they'll radio ahead, so they charge them accordingly. There's 2 tires and propane tank and such, we'll charge them accordingly to add on their ticket as they're calling out, which is the shippers or the commercial people will go accordingly and charge the people. So it's not on the hauler, it's on the people that try to hide it. So that's why you need 3 people during operations, Friday through Monday, to operate that. If we only have 2, it's hard to catch. You know, if someone's back there dumping a commercial load, they're back there compact, someone goes in and dumps 2 5 gallons in a pile and you push it in, you don't always get it, you don't always get it.
Right.
So that's why you have to have 3 people all the time out there.
Thanks, Dave. Next question. So 0 to 150 pounds, and we're talking $5. So you're proposing.
Yes. And that's flexible, we can, like I talked to you yesterday, if you wanna go to 0 to 200 pounds and then go to 7 at 300 or 200, however we can do the math on that.
Well, let's just leave it as you got it proposed. Could you just describe a little bit what some of the other counties charge for a minimum? Just so we have an idea of comparison.
The cheapest one, I'm just gonna go with the cheapest right now, sir, but in Malheur County, they charge $4 for minimum. Malheur, that's the cheapest one.
And what is that?
Besides us right now.
Besides us right now, yes. That's 0 to 200 pounds. And then anything after that, they go on their cycle. But Malheur County only charges $24 a ton, too, in that aspect. But they don't have much garbage. The way they do it, where I got it. But everybody else in the county, like Klamath is $74 a ton. Prineville is, or Cook County is $60 a ton. Jefferson County is $109 a ton. So it's all over the board, so.
But what about the minimums?
Oh, you want me to keep on the minimums?
Yeah.
Well, so we're $70 a ton, and we're not changing that.
No.
We're just changing our minimum.
Yeah, sorry, I got sidetracked.
No, it's okay.
Prineville, or Cook County is $10, Lakeview's $10, or Klamath Falls is $10. Everybody else is $10 to $12.
Everybody else has got a minimum.
Everybody else has a minimum. It's 0 to 200 pounds. But actually, there's one that they have a minimum, then they have a 0 to 400 pounds, $22. Is their minimum? Yeah. So, yeah, I was trying to figure it out, but their minimum is $12.
So if we approve what you proposed here for 0 to 150 pounds at $5 minimum, we're still one of the cheapest in the state.
Second.
Second, because like I said, as far as everybody else I've called, looked into $10, $12, but one was, will allow it is $15 minimum. So, and some of them, like I said,
Remind everybody what a new liner costs.
new liner's about $1.4 million per cell.
We have 5 cells.
With no liners.
I just want to point out real quick, the idea is that, potentially there could be more revenue generated by doing this, but that's not necessarily a guarantee. It depends on what.
It's not a guarantee no matter what, because you don't know.
Correct.
Because what we do is we charge by the tonnage we get, and that's what this math goes, even the $5 goes into the tonnage.
Right.
Of how we do it. So if we don't get, say, some of our garbage, which it won't, but if it gets back to 4,800, we're losing money.
Right. If we
But
have
if we go to 7,300 ton, we're losing money because we have to do a liner.
Right.
We're right on that borderline. As a matter of fact, we're in exemption status as we speak right now.
See, and just going back to the minimum of, the $5 minimum of everything between 0 to 150. If you had 200 people that came in and they had $5 worth of garbage, back that up. If you had 200 people come in and they have 5 pounds worth of garbage each, and they're all paying $5, yes, that's generating revenue. However, it is entirely on the individual who's coming in to make sure that they're coming in with 150 pounds worth to actually get the biggest bang for their buck.
The idea of the landfill, and I've read this and I've listened to several people, the less public you can have come in, the better. You want to encourage them to get curbside service. That's what you do. That's the ideas, liability of the landfill, safety, all that. All DEQ even tells you that. If you can encourage your public to do curbside service, it would be the best way, and only have commercial come in your landfill. That'd be the idea.
Right.
Ideally. It's not going to happen, but that's.
We'll always have the public.
You're always going to have the public coming. You're not going to turn them away. Well,
right.
You need to get service. You can't do that.
No.
But you encourage it. And this way, just the less people you have up there, the less the better. Commercial is what makes you your money anyway. Right. So those big trucks is what supports Lakeview Sanitation is what supports that landfill.
And if the public is coming in, it's better for us from a liability standpoint if they come in less often with a larger portion of garbage, which in that sense, they're actually saving money and we're still at the $7 a ton.
Yeah.
So.
Cause like you were telling me that one Sunday you had like 76 people that came in with like one bag or.
Yeah, we didn't even, that day we didn't even make enough tonnage to pay the wages out there, or not even close. But that's, that's different too.
Dave, you also require tarping. How's that going?
Carpet's doing good. We do need to shrink it up a little bit. I think our open face is still a little too big. Come a long ways compared to what it used to be. Well, there's nothing out there. So we're still we're still trying to do our daily cover. With this time of year, it's hard because it's muddy. It just turns to mud. So it's just better to keep our working face where it is and target. So we target daily.
And you require tarping though.
Oh, you're talking about.
Yeah.
Sorry.
It's okay.
Yes, while we're talking about, I encourage more or less and less people aren't tarping. Even though you tell them $5, they don't care. They'll pay the $5. Well,
Tarping is required for
yes,
uncovered garbage.
yes, $5. If you show up, we charge $5. We say you're tarping, we'll charge $5. They're going whatever. And then next time they come in and not talk again, they pay the $5. They don't want to deal with it. Well, that's all good, but look at our roads. We gotta send work crews down, pick up garbage. Thomas Creek Road, you just go down there and my guys, I've got to where if they see garbage, they pull over and pick it up, take it in, because it just helps clean up that road. They can't do it everywhere. But what I've talked to and what I'm studying, we need to put a $20 fee or a higher fee stating if you're not talked to, you get charged $20 or whatever we decide to make it higher to encourage so they don't go, well, I don't care. For $20, they can go buy a tarp.
If you go down Rabbit Hill Road and Thomas Creek Road, you can see where people's garbage is blowing out.
And
If you're a neighbor.
Kevin at Lakeview Sanitation, he's the one that bring that up to me. He's like, he passes loads all the time that our tarp and garbage is flying out.
So are you proposing that today or is that another?
Well, I'm here, so, or would you rather me do analysis and find numbers, but I would like to propose it.
It's currently a $5 fine if you come in untarped.
And people, I talked to my scale house people and they're going, well, here's $5, and they show back a week later with no time, so well, here's $5. That's not the point. The point is encourage them to target so they don't have to pay that, so we're not hauling garbage all over Lake County.
Good point. It's not being presented today, but I don't see any reason why we can't have it on the agenda tomorrow for discussion or for consideration. Okay. Is there a recommendation for what it should be?
My recommendation is $20.
So I was thinking.
And it'll get tarped.
It'll get cut.
Yeah, because
I'm not doing it to make $20, like I said, that's not what I'm thinking.
Right.
Thinking.
Okay.
And then my last point, Dave, you presented a lot of this information at our Christmas Valley meeting 3 weeks ago. I wanted to hold off, give an opportunity for South County to hear input and whatnot, or give input. We don't have any, so I'm ready to move forward.
And we do have public comment tomorrow, so if the public want to come, and give public comment on today's meeting, they're more than welcome to do that. But,
I think the tarping's a good idea too.
Yeah.
I think,
It just saves people from going down the road and blowing garbage into the neighbor's yards.
the tire thing is a must. We're we're not making no money. Not that we're trying to make money, we're not even making, we're losing money.
Right.
So, and we, you know, if we break even, fine. But
Just another observation here, at the transfer sites such as Paisley and Christmas Valley, they're paying more than in Lakeview.
Mhm.
They're paying $7 for a minimum load. And
that's if
up to $15.
actually, but they're not.
I
That's
mean,
not.
it's hard to read all that.
That's not the minimum though. What we do, that's just a small pickup.
Okay.
If you got, if it's
Full
a small pickup, full load, it's $7. We don't know the weight of it. We don't.
Right.
Same way, and then if it's a pickup with racks, small pickup with racks or whatever, we charge $15. You know, just, you know, cause they pile it up. What we charge there is when they drive through, we count how many cans they got or how many bags. Like right now, if it's a small bag, it's $1.
Yeah.
You know, we just kinda guess it, and like I said, he's very good at guessing, so.
Well, I just wanna make a point that folks at transfer sites are paying their fair share too.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
It's currently a lot cheaper at the landfill in Lakeview.
Yeah.
This
So
will
this will just make it more even.
This will make it more even.
Right,
across the
yeah,
county.
well, yeah, North Lake's paying a lot more than down here. You're right, yeah. I see what you're saying. But by changing this, then they won't have any.
And there's an approximate weight on those small pickups, 200 some odd pounds, but again, like you said, we're not weighing them, so we don't know.
Dusty's doing a heck of a job.
Yeah.
If you're only $10 off on weight for a whole load, that's pretty amazing actually.
Oh, yeah. Because Mike, I want to tell you what, last week he was $30 to the bad or something like that, and then he said he was $10 to the good this time. What is he doing? And I'm going, well, no, he doesn't have to do that. He doesn't have to match the dollars that's done. You're not going to.
Yeah, it's not gonna happen.
It's not going to happen.
Yeah.
Oh, that's right. He goes, well, he's close.
Yeah. Good deal.
Thanks, Dave.
All right, thank you guys.
We need to talk about.
The base and telecom quote.
Yes, we need to, I have to.
Well, we got you up here.
Base and telecom, as you know, there are main people that run all of our camera systems and our security and all that. I reached out to them and got a quote. Other places, there's really no reason doing this. Melanie knows. If we was to go with another company to do this, we'd have to get them out of Texas or Washington or, and these guys, we have a great service with these guys. They just jump over, fix when we need it. They're an hour and a half away. They come over. If we went with another business, they'd have to drive to maintain anything that we have.
They're only local one.
Yeah, they're only local one and they're compatible with all of our stuff we have. Otherwise, we'd have to change everything. If we put stuff in there with our server, it'd be a pain in the butt and it'd cost us more anyway to change all that. Melanie's went through this before as well. Anyway, as we've reconstructed or reorganized, should I say, at the annex, we feel it's time for card access because the key situation out there is terrible. Every week I got someone come, so I need a key to this door, I need a key to that door. And Melanie's same thing. She's getting people, I need a key to get in. So we decided it was time to put a card access for us when we go up there. If you guys ever need any, you can go in there, let your stuff in, so it's just time to keep up with the times, so.
Well,
Anyway.
we better utilize the annex.
Yeah, exactly. So, and so what I've done is we've got 5 accesses to it. 3 outside doors, door into pool and probation, and then a key lock into veteran service, where our server is. We gotta keep that locked, because that's where our main server is for there. I didn't put access to the inside doors to the sheriff and the county room, because they can all get in through the outside doors. They don't need, if they wanna let anybody through that door, then they can open the door and let them in. So that's why I didn't put card access. There was no sense in it, that'd be a waste of money putting that many card access in. But you do need them outside. So the 3 outside and the 2 parole and probation and veteran service is gonna have card access.
Gotcha. Sounds good.
Any questions?
Just this, no questions, just a comment, same comment that I made in 2013 when we talked about doing the card access here in the courthouse. Now it's 2021, not 1984 anymore. The keys is frustrating. I have a key to the outside door, don't have a key to my inside door, to any of the offices. We have to wait for keys to come back and forth from whoever occupied that office before.
Right.
Just having a key, I lose my keys, we got to rekey the whole building because I have a key to the front door and maybe a key to my office.
Yep.
It's 2021, not 1984.
Yep. Right.
Jury's still out.
Yeah.
Point well taken.
Point taken.
All right.
That's all I got for you.
Sounds good. I guess we'll also probably explore, what we'd be making that motion under as a single source or cost savings, significant cost savings to the county.
Yeah, we've done this before. This isn't the
Right.
first time we've had to do this with Jason.
Right, yeah. We already work with these guys,
Yeah,
so
it's
yeah.
pretty common. And like I said, all their equipment's compatible with ours.
Correct.
And when they put it in, so.
Right, absolutely.
How long will it take them to put it in?
Well, they went down, looked at it already. They got it all lined up. They're just waiting for me to give them the floor. So, and I think they're slow right now, so they'll probably get right on it.
Okay, sounds good.
Good news.
All right, I think that means we're done with you.
All right. So thank you.
Thanks, Dave.
Thank you.
Go get him, Jake.
Do you know if Sheree was doing that?
Oh, I just got that.
Okay, we'll take a short recess. We'll come back 5 minutes. Okay. Open the work session back up. Time being at 11:35. Jake, would you like to go next? It's on the Health District in Lake County.
This is a contract that was developed in cooperation with the hospital. It was developed by Francine Winters. Francine runs the prevention program through the hospital, through the health district. Our juvenile office, specifically Jim Nichols in our youth investment, he's seen more also as a prevention role. He's done a lot of work with Francine, and they have created the Lake County Youth Summit. Jim was an integral part of that last year. They were supposed to go out to Camp Cottonwood and camp out, however, with the fires and everything going on, they had it here in the park. That's their leadership.
Park or ski hill?
Ski hill.
They were at the ski hill for a part of it, but they were also
They were also part
by the pool.
Another part, yeah.
So for our time and effort, collaboration, there's and Jim's duties, which are included in the addendum, helping facilitate, set up, break down, and there's some resource toolkits. It's they're willing to contribute $400 for Jim's participation in that. I'm not interested in saying no. Jim's on board with it. It's something already Jim does. It's something Jim's already doing.
Jim who again?
What's that?
What's his last name?
Jim Nickel.
Oh, Nickel.
Jim's already doing
Yeah.
this stuff. He's already involved. He's engaged. So it's asking the board to approve the contract for signature so we can give it to Charlie for his signature.
So the compensation on this is about $400?
Yep, it's $400.
I do wanna say real quick that, I got to go up there to the ski hill with Jim and everyone was kind of putting it on the kids, and I just think it was really well done. I think the kids really enjoyed themselves, and it was a good team building activity. And just want to appreciate everyone that took part in that and making it happen.
It was a good deal.
Yeah.
The first year was a good turnout.
Right.
Great support from all community partners.
Yeah.
And as they look to build, I would like to see more participation from our youth, from our kids. Now this was our first year, so trying to keep it small, work out the kinks. I think it's here to stay and there's room to grow.
Yeah.
So I saw Mr. Nickel kids on like high school campus doing, in the summertime, doing like Nerf frisbee or frisbee tag or whatever, different things.
Mhm.
Is this the same?
No, that's
a different group.
Jim engages kids all year long.
Yeah.
And then usually tries to meet them in the school. When the weather's nice, he likes to get them out of school, depending on how much class they can miss. They go to the Optimus Park and do some frisbee golf. And it's just not Jim, it's also the juvenile staff.
Right.
We're meeting with kids in the school rather than having to come to the office for that stigma piece. Meet with them in the school, but we're taking kids out of class where they're listening to whether it's English or social studies or math lecture. I encourage my staff to get the kids outside, go walk the track, go throw a football, go shoot some hoops, go to the gym, walk some laps, do something, get the kids some fresh air. You get more engagement from the kids and more conversation from the kids doing that than we do anything. So in the summer months, when there's no school, it's hard to connect with the kids. So Jim,
Yeah.
we'll meet with them at the school, meet with them, we do some rock climbing.
They do some exploring
They
and
do,
different things.
he's started the Explorers program.
Yep.
They do hiking, as part of the hiking group with 4-H.
Right.
Up north, they do the same thing up north. They make archery stuff instead of archery stuff, and shoot archery with the kids. Just
Kids
get
really
the kids
enjoy it.
involved, they get them doing something other than sitting in an office across the desk, possibly talking to somebody.
Yep.
There's more engagement, there's more relationship, really more connection.
Yep.
So this is just another way of Jim's involvement to help, not only help the prevention, but help the kids he's already working with who are involved.
Right.
And some of the kids that are involved with the summit aren't involved with Jim on any level whatsoever, other than the summit. But it's just another connection, positive connection.
Yeah. Good deal. All right. Any other questions, thoughts on this?
How did this dollar amount come to agreement?
More about it's something that they came up with. It just pretty much for his time and energy and involvement.
You feel it's fair?
Yeah. Oh yeah. We do it for nothing because that's how Jim is and that's the program we have. It'll help cover some fuel costs and Jim driving back and forth and driving.
It's not costing more than that to do it.
Yeah.
If it is, he's donating it.
Well, the county is. Yeah, juvenile department, county. We're donating.
We pay first.
It's
I'm just asking if it's enough.
what's that?
I'm just asking if 400 is enough.
Well, it's a start. It's a start.
All right. Yeah, we'll act on that tomorrow then. I have no questions.
I think just a statement, if Jim didn't do what he did, we'd have more kids in the juvenile system. This is, he meets with kids that aren't in the system yet. And I think a lot of times it helps them make wiser decisions where they don't end up in the system. And
Certainly gives an impact on kids, his actions.
I like to
Positive.
I like to just kind of stop
that real quick, because it's just not what Jim does.
Yeah.
What predates me is Patty Barnhart. And at one time, we had a federal grant that paid for Patty's position in full. That federal grant slowly went away, the state grants slowly went away, and the county saw the benefit to Patty's position, to that youth investment position. Since Patty, you've had Kristen Collins, you've had Mike Patterson, you've had Commissioner Albertson, and now we have Jim Nichols. So everybody, not just Jim and what the work Jim does. Jim does a great job, but so does everybody else.
Yeah,
Commissioner,
it's a big team.
Yourself included. So it's the county support of that position. As I said, it was a federally funded position. When I came on board, it whittled down to 25%. They paid 25% of Patty's position. Eventually it went away. Board of Commissioners saw the investment, and then we bang for the buck. I see it because, as Commissioner Robertson mentioned, he works with a wide array of folks. Some folks that are on supervision, some youth that are on supervision. Most of the youth are not. Helps them get things figured out. Works with them in another light. He's not seen as any authority whatsoever, and that's the nature of the role. He's there more of a paid support person, and it's work wonders. His numbers versus our numbers, wide range.
Yeah.
He could work with 100 kids countywide, but
That was probably pretty close to what we were.
we've agreed that it's quality versus quantity. We need quality work with these kids.
Yeah.
And time with them, versus taking on everybody and not seeing everybody every day. So Jim has a schedule figured out, and it's taken those individuals I listed time to figure out how to maximize their time with the kids that need that maximum time, versus some kids that are pick that things and are moving on and making good decisions. But we don't say no. Jim's not a no guy.
Yeah, you hate to use terms like preventative, because it really is. I think the term investment is probably one of the best terms you can use for what Jim does and why we have the program there.
And that's why I mentioned earlier, he works closely with NC because of the prevention.
Yeah, and just improving the quality of the life for the kids and the quality of time that you spend with them and everything else is a huge benefit. So good.
Other than this program that he's working on with Francine, don't be hesitant to have Jim come to us, like if he's got another project that he wants to do. I'm more than happy to try to support him, so.
We recognize that and we appreciate that.
I still have really good relationships with many of the kids that I work with. We're still in contact.
Other questions?
Nope, that's it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jake. Appreciate it. Next up, Commissioner Albertson. Solar moratorium discussion.
So I think since Commissioner Williams and I started, we've done this twice. Had what we just went through with Obsidian, and prior to that time, I don't know if they ever had it.
I don't think, what as far as a moratorium?
No, the process that we had to go through with the planning and all that with solar projects. And as you guys both know, diving into this as much as we did this last time, we could see that there's some holes that we need to take care of with what we really want and what we can give Darwin clear direction on what we want. So he's not put in a peculiar situation either. And so I just wanted to bring this up. I believe we need to change our comprehensive plan on solar to be more specific on what we want, or add a couple things. And those things are, I think we all stand together that we do not want solar on irrigated farmland or high value farmland, or high value soils. Also, like this one, we had a 20-year lease going with a rancher on this last one for grazing land. And grazing land is getting harder and harder to find. And where we can graze cattle without moving them completely out of our community. And so my thought would be that we wouldn't put solar on agriculture or rangeland that has been constantly used for grazing. There might be one that they used it 1 year and they don't use it anymore because it didn't produce anything. And the no solar within 600 feet of the with a residence without mitigation. In other words, like if it's the landowner and if he wants solar up against his house, he can have it. But when you start putting solar on 3 sides of neighbors' houses, that's a problem for me. Also, I don't want it on known wildlife habitat that's in continuous use. In other words, we could mitigate migration, winter grounds, but like that specific property, those animals were out there all the time. There's steer out there all the time. That we are going to completely change a habitat for a specific group of animals. And so I just wanted to bring this up so we can have some discussion about, I just don't want to keep going through this over and over again. And I think it will help the solar facilities, the solar people have a clear view of what we're going to allow and what we're not going to allow, so they can site their solar facilities better. So we don't waste our time or theirs or their finances. So they can pick a place that's hard pan or greasewood flats or alkali flats or not around houses or isn't grazed continuously or doesn't contain wildlife all the time. So we don't have these problems and we gotta keep living this over and over again. And so that's what my thought was, is because to add this on, we have to have 3 meetings or 2 meetings.
To make an adjustment to the ordinance.
Yeah, and we can only do it every 6 months and we've made one. So we can make this decision in December. Right?
Not had a hearing.
Yeah, we haven't had a hearing. So we would have to start the hearing process.
But we can't make it until December, right? Because we made a change. Didn't we make a change or not?
That's a different ordinance.
Oh, okay. Pardon me.
That's code enforcement.
Okay.
No.
So anyways, you can't make changes. They gotta be a 6-month period.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, I'm willing to take some of this off or add some more on, whatever you guys wanna add on. But I think we need to get the process started because I know it was really hard on Darwin. And of course it was hard on us because we poured in hours and hours, and it was hard on the solar company. And I don't want to continue down this path.
So the discussion is a solar moratorium.
So what my idea was is that we make a solar moratorium to stop any other new projects until we get this on the books.
So Commissioner, we had a committee formed to help us formulate some of these discussion points you've made. And once the previous applicant moved their project off irrigated land, that committee kind of died out.
That's why I'm doing this.
But I guess what I'd like to see is ask that committee to rejuvenate, address maybe some of these points that you're bringing up. I have also heard Darwin Johnson say we're following current state rules, and they are the most restrictive.
But I don't think they're clear. And I don't have a problem with agricultural land being used for solar if it's crappy for agricultural use. You know, we have places in Valley Falls, we got places in Alpine Lake, we have places in North Lake. You know, there's places on the west side that are hard banned, you can't grow cattle. The problem is that when you start taking away irrigated farm ground or farm ground for grazing, that's gone forever, you know, at least in our lifetime. And we can't afford to lose that, you know. That's why they don't build solar projects on western Oregon, because their farm ground is so valuable to growing crops that they won't do it.
Just with my question though, would you be opposed to, or would you be in support of trying to rejuvenate that committee?
I wouldn't be opposed to it. The problem is that we set Darwin up to lead the deal. And he is freaking overwhelmed with work. He's overwhelmed with, you know, other things. And so I just don't want to lay more on him, you know. And I want him to have clear direction of what we want.
I guess, you know, one of the things is that the current rules, as Barry pointed out, is the current state rules are the most restrictive. And we go a lot off of those state rules. A lot of those rules, though, however, that we utilize are there to maximize private property rights. So if we're looking to change the rules to make them more restrictive, we will be looking, you either go one way or the other. We would be adopting rules to restrict additional private property rights. And so that's a really delicate balance of how we handle that. I understand, and I think you're absolutely right in saying that we as a board 100% oppose the development of solar on these irrigated farmlands. I think where this became an issue was on irrigated land in which the landowner did not actually own the water rights in question. And being that we were in a closed basin, where would those water rights go? Because it was actual loss of asset to the county. Because once those go back to the state, they don't typically come back. So given those unique circumstances, I think it was perfectly justified of us as a county to come in and say, no, this is not right in this circumstance. Absolutely not. And plus, there's already state rules saying that they prohibit the use of this, the development of solar on these irrigated farmlands. In California, it's a different matter. In some places, actually, we've seen that they actually promote it because of the severe drought and low water and everything else. By putting solar there, it's less impact on the aquifer and utilization of those water resources. But for us, it doesn't make sense. And we've identified that as a county because we're unique. In Klamath County, for instance, they're looking to put solar in some of these places where landowners have lost the ability to irrigate, and they no longer have an ability to generate an income. And so farmers are looking for ways to diversify.
If that could be mitigated out, I mean, we could work that out. I'm not saying I'm 100% 100% against it, but I'm 100% against it if there's no other way.
Correct. And we didn't see another way to be able to retain those water rights and keep them within Lake County. And so, and the landowner did not own those. And so in that sense, I think it was justified by our actions, and I think we still stand by that. I don't know what, if we could actually implement an actual solar moratorium, because like you state and pointed out, we really haven't done too many of these things where we become a quasi-judicial board and we're making determinations and we're making judgments on law and defining law that can be appealed to other boards and even the Court of Appeals ultimately beyond LUBA. And that's because the state changed the laws to where it expanded the footprint of land that could be put through the county process. So you have larger chunks of land that could, and larger projects that could be run through the county process at local level. So we are going to see more of those if the developer chooses to run it through the local level. It's only an option. They don't have to. In fact, they could still run it through the state level, which I don't know if our moratorium would have any bearing on what FSEC did. If FSEC determined it to be an allowable use within state laws, I don't know if our local moratorium or us stating here at a local level saying, no, we're not going to approve any solar right now, we're not going to make any determination on this at all, I don't know if it would have any standing at the state level. And so, and in fact, I think that could actually encourage them to run through the state level rather than the local level, where we would lose authority and we would lose any discretion over it. If anything, I think at that point the best we can hope for is an approval from a state, and we just get to make a determination on some conditions because of ORS's like on mitigation, where it says that the county makes a determination on mitigation, if any. So they might just say, well, this is approved because FSEC's never denied anything. They've usually just approved it, and they send it to the county and say, make a determination on mitigation. Maybe they might just do what they're going to do, or take the recommendation of OBF&W if they go to those meetings at FSEC. And so that would be my concern.
I totally get it, and I'm not 100% for a moratorium, but I'm 100%. We need to get this. We need to be more clear.
We don't want to be facing the same dilemma again and again and again.
Right.
Would it be? Are we looking to define the process better, or for us, and how we go about making a determination on our decision and how we evaluate the criteria, or are we looking to? I suppose that's the question.
I think both, kind of, because we need the process to be simpler all the way around for the solar developer and for us to make the decision, and for Darwin. I mean, because Darwin's gung ho to do these projects, but then when I say, I don't want it on grazed land, well, he didn't know that, and maybe he could have redirected the person, hey, the board doesn't want it on grazed land or farmed land or whatever we pick. Here's another site that's available, that's got a substation close by, there's no houses close by, it's not irrigated, and it's grazed very little, and it doesn't hold wildlife on a continuous basis.
I guess at that point aside from largely restricting what a landowner could do, we'd also have to consider the fact that, for instance, what type of grazing? Is the grazing taking place by the landowner, or is it taking place by the leasee? Because the leasee doesn't have any property rights.
They're using it.
Yeah, but they don't have any property rights.
It's grazing that's needed in the county for economy.
But there's nothing to prohibit that landowner from simply kicking that person off that graze and saying, I'm thinking about doing solar in 5 years.
Or something else.
Right,
Doesn't have to be solar.
right. No, or anything, you know, but that's a way the landowner could still skate around the project and the land goes fallow for 5 years and isn't being utilized for anything.
I think to Commissioner Robertson's point though, every time we take away grazing out of Lake County, you know, cattle and timber are our top two natural resource businesses in Lake County.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a piece, but pretty soon you got people narrowed down to almost nothing.
Right.
And that piece of ground is no longer an option for 35 plus years. And so it just becomes that much less of a income possibility for people who wish to pursue cattle industry.
Well, and what it does too is that it raises the cost of grazing elsewhere. Every time you take a piece out, this guy's getting to have to pay more for grazing. And pretty soon, we're out of the market, you know.
And I'm not in a position where absolutely hard, you know, if it's been grazed, you know, I think every case has its own.
I do too, and I think we should be able to mitigate those and talk about those, you
Right,
know.
but if we develop rules saying no, that's on this land because it's grazed, then that's the rule. And so that handcuffs us in our ability.
But we can make statements without mitigation, and we don't make that rule without, we can mitigate it, we can talk about it, we can.
Well, and I also think that, you know, I think, you know, there's issues with mitigation that actually could put wildlife at risk. I think those are actually good points. I also think doing mitigation where you lock cattle off of land, where you're not only taking a portion of land out of use where, you know, say, okay, you can't use this for grazing anymore, but then you're doubling that with a 2-to-1 mitigation where you also can't use any of that for grazing anymore. So, but we as a county authority, though, we make the end determination on mitigation. And we say, no, I think cattle should be allowed to graze. I see elk and deer in with my cows all the time. Who says they can't graze together? That's nonsense, but they can't. So I think there's that, but that's not necessarily so much an issue with the developer as it is with an advisory agency, such as ODF and W, because they have a policy, it's not a law, it's a policy that says, you know, in kind and in proximity, and they don't necessarily want cows on it. Well, that's a suggestion and advice. It's not really a law. So I think, you know, that there is some discretion within that we can still utilize when we make a determination or accept the mitigation agreement. But those aren't reasons for outright no's. Those are conditions of approval and things that we mitigate on. And
So what do you suggest then? What do you suggest about these problems that keep occurring? What do we need to do?
well, I think we definitely need to keep working at it. I'm not in opposition to working on it. I think looking at the process and making it easier, not just for us, but future boards and other boards that come through. I mean, like, we've already found some things that we've been able to improve, like our interview process for hiring, using the point system and different things like that really help us as commissioners and employers in determining who is, you know, and finding a good candidate, especially when you have like all really good candidates. But when we become a quasi-judicial board, it's no longer a normal commissioners meeting where we're approving a vehicle purchase. We're making a determination and defining law that can then be appealed to a board of land use appeals, and that decision could still be appealed to the Court of Appeals. and they could just say, no, county, you're wrong, or whatever. And we actually risk losing our foothold in the door and making determinations on conditions. So
Here's what I suggest. Go for it. It's okay. If you finished or
I'll just wrap up real quick.
Yeah.
I would just say, I think that we still have work to do for sure. I think I am a little disappointed that our advisory committee has never really come to us with solid recommendations on what it is to approve. I think everyone says, well, we need to change something, something's not working, we don't like this, we wanna change this. Well, then what do we change it to? Because the rules as of now have been written to maximize private property rights. So if we change them, we are either going one way or the other. And so we have to be, but it would be nice if we had recommendations. And so I think there's more work to be done. I don't know if a moratorium would be a good direction to go in the interim, because I think that's where you're going.
It
Is to
doesn't
give
have
us
to
some
be.
time to move forward with changes.
It doesn't have to be a moratorium,
But to make the process simpler for Darwin and us, so we have a better idea of how we structure our meetings and make decisions. I understand that.
so we have an advisory committee that we had put together this spring. We recognize that Darwin Johnson's very busy. He's had mixed response from that group as far as participation. Let's just be fair, low participation now since things have changed. I propose that we as commissioners ask for that group to meet again, and anybody else that is interested, that we feel should be on that, or maybe Darwin's had some recommendations or people express interest. We address them again, bring up some of these points, send it back with them, see what they come up with. Also look into what are the current state laws, how do these compare to current state rules, and then have them report back to us, and let's give them a deadline, and let's ask for a report back by a certain time, so that it just doesn't, so that we will actually have a product, and then we can decide, yeah, let's keep all these, but let's get rid of the grazing point, or something like that. But let's make it a community effort versus just us making these decisions arbitrarily.
Yeah.
Because we've got the advisory group, let's utilize them, let's try to utilize them again, let's readdress the group and see if we can't get some traction. And then if we don't get traction, then we take a little harder look at it, deeper dive. What do you think?
That sounds great to me. I would love to have more community participation. The community give us their ideas of what they want, what they don't want. And, we can't just say we don't want solar ever, because there's places that it's fine. But what does the community want? What are the restrictions that they
What do we value? What are the values that we want considered?
And our heritage and our culture's gotta play a huge part in this. That's one reason I'm pushing so hard on the farm ground, is because every time you lose grazing or farm ground, you lose a little bit of your culture too, and a little bit of your heritage too. And I don't wanna lose that, and so that's what makes Lake County Lake County. So I'll contact Darwin and I'll do some more talking with him and see what he wants to do also. We might need to put somebody else in charge of it, just so Darwin's not overwhelmed, because he's pretty overwhelmed. And I just want him to have clear direction too, and what we want as a board, what the community wants,
So this is a good opportunity. You mentioned that we want community participation and involvement. We're short people on our planning commission right now, and we need to fill those vacancies here pretty quickly.
Are we too short or 3 short?
We're 2 short, potentially 3 short. We don't really fully those two. Because even some of the ones that we do have, sometimes they don't always show up, and we need more involvement there. The other aspect to that is, I think we also need to set some of our planning commission up for success by giving them appropriate training. Right now, our planning commission, there's only one of them that's actually gone to training for land use, and that was Ms. Parks. Was the only one who actually attended training. You and I, we attended some training at county college on land use law. I believe you probably had a session on land use. It was virtual. I don't know how much you were able to get out of it. I mean, it's dead by PowerPoint. But I think that those trainings are essential. So I actually reached out to Annette Levy and asked, hey, can we get something going here in Eastern or Central Oregon? Something not too far for our people to travel and do a session through land use, and not just for planning commissioners, but also commissioners, because I would attend. I would go back through that again and kind of as a refresher, because we don't do this very often. I had some discussion with AOC on the same thing. Gina and I spoke on it. The governance committee, which I'm vice chair on, we discussed it on maybe having a training session again where other counties could even participate.
So you did talk to Gina?
Yeah, talked a little bit with Gina about it.
What did she say?
Well, we don't have anything scheduled, but I think probably this spring, early in the spring, I think it would be good to have another training session, or even this winter if we could, do a kind of a hybrid.
I just think one thing to keep in mind with that is a lot of those people will have day jobs.
Absolutely.
The ranches they're running or different things, and yeah, you could have a live version, but also have it on Zoom as well.
Yeah, hybrid.
And have it in the evening.
Yeah.
Started at 5, 6 o'clock, just like you would a planning commission meeting,
Mm-hmm.
and go till 8 o'clock or whatever it may be.
After hours.
But that gives people still a chance to do their normal jobs and also participate.
That's a good point. So,
because otherwise you still may only have one on a planning commission actually attend.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's not what we're looking for. We're looking for 100% participation if possible.
Right, because I think it was something.
Just makes everybody better.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry.
No, it's fine. I think it was pointed out, that we had a split decision with a recommendation for approval. But the for those who denied never gave a reason for denial. And I think that it would help either side, whichever way it goes, help them better articulate exactly what it is that they're looking to, what their reasoning is and what they see within it, if they're able to understand and comprehend those land use laws. They're voluntary. We pay for their travel occasionally with these meetings, but that's it. So the better we can set them up for success. I completely understand where you're coming from.
I'll do some more background with Darwin and the solar committee and see what we can come up with.
Support you. Glad to help out.
Yeah.
I think it helps all of us.
Yep.
Once we get the wheels under the wagon on the solar committee, it'd be nice if they were also a siting committee, help with the siting. And then that way, we're not gonna have all these same problems over and over again,
Well, remember, we have 2 solar developers on the advisory committee too. So, it's good education for them too, to have a better understanding of what we're considering and what we're looking at.
Well, it's just like one of the excuses has been with several of them is they wanna have a substation close by because the expense of building a substation is high. Well, if that might be true, but it might be money in the bank in the long run, because if it doesn't get approved on another place, it would have been better off if they would have built on a more secluded place with a substation.
Mm-hmm.
And, those are just discussions we need to have, and so.
Yeah. Alright,
Thanks, Mark.
no, appreciate it, thank you. So, we've got 3 more things on the agenda, we've got Cherie, Melanie, we've got the sheriff deputy, patrol vehicle purchase, and Facebook Live meeting discussion. But we also have a timed item at 1:30. Do we wanna go ahead and knock these 3 things out, or do we wanna just recess until the 1:30 and then get these 3 things then? Cause I know it's lunch, so I don't wanna eat into the lunch hour unnecessarily, we're coming back anyway.
We'll be back anyways, we can do them after. Or you wanna do them right now, Rick?
Can we get these 3 things done by 12:30?
Yeah, I think so.
So it gives us an hour.
Well, we probably won't be able to do Cherie unless she gets here, but she might be held up
We can do 2.
in court, yep. Melanie, you wanna hit us with the sheriff, deputy patrol vehicle purchase?
Yeah, so I only received one of the 3 quotes that I submitted.
Okay.
One of the vendors said they weren't able to submit a quote because of ownership change. The other one didn't respond, so I did evaluate their price. This is for a PPV vehicle, so it's not a stock vehicle. I think it's a fair price, and I'd like to pursue the order.
Okay. What rule would we be able to accept this under?
I went out for 3 quotes.
Yeah, you did go out for 3, but we
There's-
only have 1 response, so it would just be,
She went out.
I
just
still follow
accept it.
procurement law.
Right, absolutely. Okay. Yeah, and it's really no different than ones in the past. And, you know, we've approved vehicles actually at a higher price than this, so. And does this have all the specs that we actually want?
Did they say when they could do it? I mean, since we're having a hard time,
So they'll lock the price and order it now, so that
but
won't
it might
change.
be a while before we get the vehicle.
Hmm.
Possible. See, that was the problem that we had at Lakeview. That they waited, and now they're still waiting on the vehicle, so.
So it's got the trailer tow package, Oxford white, privacy glass.
Is there anything that the sheriff's office wanted that they can't provide on here? Probably be the easiest way to ask them.
Yeah.
So,
Okay,
So a pretty good price.
we can act on that tomorrow then. Next up, Facebook Live meeting discussion. I didn't put it on the agenda, so I don't know what's the discussion.
So, one of you mentioned that it's helpful to have these meetings on Facebook, so I wanted you guys to discuss whether you wanted to push the button to put this on Facebook Live. There is the obstacle of having that being part of public record, which I don't know, and I don't have the capacity to monitor it, but I think if we put a disclosure saying we're not monitoring this, it will help, but I didn't know if you guys wanted to pursue that.
As far as like comments and things like that, or?
Mhm. Like I can't engage with people on Facebook.
Right, right, can we just shut those comments off while there's engagement on it?
I don't think you can on Facebook Live. So, I'm personally not all that gung ho.
I don't think I wanna do that.
Do what?
Facebook Live. I think,
We could post them afterwards, right? Or
Well, the
Well,
examiner
papers.
posts them,
right,
so people still have access, and I think that's fine. I just don't know if we wanna go down that rabbit hole.
what about another like platform like YouTube? Could we do a YouTube
Well,
Live or
theirs
something where you
goes
can
on
shut
YouTube,
that
don't they?
contact off,
Yeah, it's
Your-
just not,
Your videos go on YouTube.
right, it's just not live.
right? We do have people joining us, I mean, I've seen a couple different names on here today, you know, that are from the general public. And maybe that's part of it too, is just to get that information out there so we can get more public joining us.
That'd be fine. I'm just not much for the Facebook.
No, I understand.
I'm not either, but I just wanted to get a group consensus.
we're utilizing this piece of equipment here on the corner of Melanie's desk to give us opportunity for people to see people in the crowd as well. It just does a better job of recording the meeting, if we so choose to record it, so that people can see the discussion better. I think it's a good tool. We obviously used it in Christmas Valley. It may be a tool that, we want to utilize later. I like it that people get the opportunity to see what we're discussing, whether it's through the local paper or whatever. I'm not in any way advocating for Facebook Live.
No.
You guys know my
Consensus,
participation.
consensus, we will not be doing that. Okay. All right, got those two things off. The last two items is, if Sheree can make it down for that, around 1:30 or after. And then Heidi Martinez hopefully will be able to join us on the OHAI today. Alright, so is there anything else for open work session? Oh, I do actually have one thing. Water Resource Department is going to be here today. I mentioned it to Barry earlier. They should actually be here. They said they'd be here around noon and they'd stop in to see us. Do you want to have some time with Kyle Gorman as well?
We work it out.
Okay, I think I kind of mentioned to Kyle that Barry would like to see him and everything. They are going to be flying the position for a water master here in Lake County, sometime probably January. We already have some interest from the public, so Kyle has assured me that one of the board of commissioners, commissioners will be able to sit on that interview panel as well, and I think that's highly valued. We've had some discussion here today about water rights and issues on farmland and irrigated land. I think it's absolutely pivotal to make sure that we have a local body or someone here locally to deal with some of these water issues. So
100%.
I don't really have too much else with that. I've got a commissioners chairs meeting tonight with Regional Solutions and Annette Levy and I think Deschutes County Climate and a few others. We're just going to be discussing some things. If you guys have anything you want for me to put on Annette's radar, let me know. Alrighty, with that, we will go ahead and adjourn we will recess the meeting at 12:25. And we'll come back in at 1:30. Thanks.